it's so nice to see exactly, how all of us as a community, how we feel about it. But again, today we are not here just to share how we feel. We are here to say what are we going to do about how we feel. Because that would be the most awful thing that could happen for us to remain, silent in the midst of everything that is happening. And that's the entire day, as we will see, we are moving you from exactly understanding what's going on, because we do want you to understand what's going on. We do want you to hear what's going on. So you can go home with a level of energy that you have never felt before, because now that you know. So the question is, what are you going to do about what you know? So that's the reason I'm calling my dear sister Jamila to come here, to come forward. And Jamila is going to introduce us a number of community leaders who are on the ground every day doing the work, and who are also going to share with you what they are hearing, what their community is facing. So Jamila, here to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gabo, for making this space where we can feel like we are in community. We are among brothers and sisters. We have something in our heart, and you know what that is? It's our will to fight. And being here today is organizing. It's getting organizing. It's learning what we need to fight for and how we need to fight for and how we can continue together. My name is Jamila Shibli. I work for Healthcare for All. It's an organization that is fighting so that everybody has access to health care. And like all of you, we are very, very worried about everything that is coming out of Washington. There are a couple of things that we can do. One is share what we know, and that's why we brought some powerful leaders in here today to tell us what they know, what's happening to their community, and from there, build up. So I want to bring here with me these leaders that will talk about what they see out there. I'm going to call here Lenita Reason from the Brazilian Workers Center. Damaris Velasquez from Agencia Alpha. Pastor Kiki from True Alliance Center. Claire Okalani from Acedon. So Lenita will be talking about Brazilians in this area in Massachusetts. Damaris will be talking about Spanish speakers. Where's Pastor Kiki? Oh, right there. We'll be talking about the Haitian community. Okay. And Claire will talk about the African diaspora, if I said that okay. And I'm going to pass it on to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here, Dr. Bo, Dr. Kiki. Yes, I'm trying to. As Jamila said, my name is Lenita Reason. I am the Executive Director at the Brazilian Workers Center. I've been working at the Brazilian Workers Center since 2010. I had experience, this is my second Trump administration. The first one I wasn't documented, but thank God we had COVID-19 that didn't let him do so much. It was a bad thing, but on the other side was something they gave us opportunity, help us learn another way to do our work. Right now we can do remotely work and people can do something from home. Some people, right? Because what happened in the past. But we still, with the workers that we see at the center, the community that we serve, it's still not possible. They have to go out every day. We work with house cleaners, restaurant workers, construction workers. So they don't have the luxury to work from home. So they have to get out and face the fear every day. And what we see at the center and what we hear in the calls we receive is people asking us, should I send my kid to school today? It's safe for me to go to work? I work very close to the border of New Hampshire. And it's like not only New Hampshire, it's any place now. It's in front of your house, it's across of your street, it's your church, hospitals, right? So and this is just so hard for us because we cannot tell people stay home. They need to provide to their families. And this is something that we have in C as well, people calling us and ask for support to pay rent, to pay basic bills, because when they miss a day or two of work because they're afraid to get out of the house, so this make an impact of their lives and their kids' lives. The other side of my community that I'm not proud of and that I feel not only ashamed but mad about is the ones that came here longer, that has a small business, and now they take advantage of the ones that just arrived or doesn't have the same opportunity or is still in process to get that status. And some people say, well, do the right thing. Like I did. Well, I did the right thing myself. I'll talk about me. It took me 17 years to get my green card. It's not that I did the wrong thing. I waited for 5 years in Brazil and I stayed here 12 years undocumented not because I was doing the wrong thing. I was doing the right thing, but the system didn't help me much, right? So the people that we serve in the center, our community, our workers, call us because they are not getting paid. And when we call the employer, they say, well, you know what? Tell them I'm going to call ICE. Or sometimes they say, you're going to do this. If you don't do it, you might wake up in Brazil tomorrow. So, and this is sad because it's someone that came here, faced similar things. When you come, you have to learn the language, you get to find a job, you get to do things. Some people came already with green card, but this is a very small percentage. So, and we're doing the best we can to remind them where they come from, to remind them that the people that they're traveling today to call ICE is the worker that's helping them to get profit on their small business. And they do this to them, who's going to work for them tomorrow? They think they're going to do the same thing with the people that have the same fear of immigration. So this is a very sad. Expecting our community be united as one, but unfortunately we are human beings, right? And sometimes some human beings has a side and dark side. Thinking that they doing things like that, they can be more close to the power. Because this is what some people in my community trying to do, is trying to be white, but not the whites that care about other, but the whites that just want the power, like the guy that is up there in DC. So I want to tell you that we're still fighting. We have a worker assembly tomorrow with 200 workers. We're trying to inform. We're doing everything we can. We work with other organizations, other worker centers, partners, anyone that care about unions, so we can fight back, and we will continue to support the community and the people that we believe that come here to work, to provide to their family, and to make America great, because immigrants make America great.
And I'm the Director of Programs of Agencia Alpha, and I'm originally from Guatemala. And just like, Benita was stating before, I've been living in the United States for 35 years now. And I was undocumented for 22 of those years. Wow. And I know that I can never compare the years that I live being undocumented with the years that my community is facing right now. The challenges are higher, are tougher. And just as Lenita was saying, I was thinking I could do a copy and paste of everything that she said about the community and what the community is facing, because right now I think it's regardless of where you come from. As long as you look different, you're facing the same issues. Even if you're documented, even if you want to deny it. As Lenita was saying, many members of our communities may be feeling, oh, I'm a citizen now, I'm okay. The reality is that if you don't stop things right now, you know that old saying, first they came for so-and-so, then they came for so-and-so, now they're coming for me. Yeah. Now the reality is different. So as Lenita was saying, we are seeing a lot of our community members trying not to send their kids to school, being afraid of going to their medical appointments, being afraid of being outside. Grocery shopping is now a challenge. And during the last month and a half in IFSI-USA, we have done more than 35 Know Your Rights trainings. That just shows you, I'm not pushing for that, it's just the sad reality. This is what people are needing to hear, and they want to hear. They need to know about their rights. And although seeing what's going on in our communities now may make us feel sad, and I love the temperature check that we did a few minutes ago, because it is true, that's how we feel. Vulnerable, sad, tired, overwhelmed. I also have to say that during those trainings, I've been able to see how so many people are willing to fight back with us. How many people are willing to stand on our side. Allies. I have met with a lot of students, different people from different clinics, schools staff, and people from the community. And I think that that brings me hope to know that if we do this more often, I am so happy to be here and to see so many faces. I just saw a couple like Cindy and other people that I haven't seen in so many years. And I said, you know what, this is the right place to be, because this here is where we can reconnect, we can recharge, and we can stand. Because if we don't stand against this now, tomorrow is going to be too late. And so, although all of us are facing the same thing, and I'm pretty sure that my colleagues here, who I see every Monday at our meetings, are going to say the same thing: fear, lack of resources. When we are together, we can make a difference. And that's my hope for today.
She's my best friend in the meeting, so how do I top that? I'll say these two things. The African community is often the silent group because colonial pasts have taught us how to be civil and take it. And you know what I'm talking about, Andrew. We don't say how we feel truly inside unless we are in safe spaces. And in our safe spaces as Africans, regardless of nationality, the same things are happening. People are quietly going into the night, and we don't recognize that they're going into the night. We're communicating with people as far as Idaho and doing Know Your Rights trainings with them because they have no resources close by to them. And the level of understanding, empowerment, folks who are, we try to pull as many attorneys from New England that we know. Maine is also another area that has a very large African immigrant population, and most of them are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and have been in this country more than 30 years, and they're just as worried. They've planted roots in the United States. On top of the fact that that's going on, not hospitals, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to borrow what you're saying. But on top of those issues, Africans always feel like I'm inconveniencing someone by asking for help. I don't know whether that's a consensus, but we always feel like we're inconveniencing people. And right now we're encouraging them, inconvenience me, because if you don't, you will go quietly into the night. And when I say that, think of it in many ways. Immigration for us, think of immigration as an interstate highway, completely interstate, but without repairs, so there are potholes everywhere. Most of us will come one of two ways. Either as a student, of which you have the option to have employment-based green card sponsorship, or a family member will sponsor you, but that takes years, almost 10 years, no, 4 years, 4 to 5 years roughly. But with the backlog now, it's about 7 years. Or you come in as an asylum case, and that will be between 7 to 10 years of being in the United States. And within that, you always must know that you're on shaky ground. I'll tell you this, all the attorneys are saying, regardless, do not travel. Because we can't guarantee whether you're coming back. Whether you're a green card holder, as long as you don't have a passport. Whether you're a green card holder or you are a student, just don't travel back as much as you can. Just stay in the United States. Forget Mexico for vacation. I'm sorry, Pastor Kiki, am I taking too long? Feel like the Oscars. But what I would like to say is, in this room, I see so many collaborators that we got to know during the pandemic. Andrew, I can see it. Francisco from New View. We are a tapestry. It's not a tapestry that makes America great because he's ruined it. It's what makes America exceptional to me, this room right here. Because we make it happen every day. And right now we need courage on the streets. The White House is a car sales showroom. We are not going to let that happen. It's a place where decisions have been made that affect the most vulnerable, including the countries we come from. Because nobody knows right now that things are getting tough. Climate change is so real. Sub-Saharan Africa has had the hottest last 3 months. I've never seen, how many of you still measure in Celsius? Oh, wait, there are a couple of people. 45 degrees Celsius is what? Really hot. Think of the hottest summer, but it's going on for the next 3 months. And most of us live agrarian lives. We make fun that we have chickens in our backyards because we eat them, okay? We grow our own crops. We can't afford to do small things. Our money is reserved for school fees, for medical costs, for the big things, right? But now it's for food, and yet food is scarce. So we need to think about multiple things, multiple layers happening in the countries that people are coming from. And right now we don't need to sell any more Teslas in the White House. But what I would like to say is, for our local politics in general, I'd like to thank the cities that are standing up against this current administration. I'd like to thank our public schools that are encouraging parents to opt out because they're not going to give that information to anybody. Take me to jail. It's okay. I'll be out tomorrow. I got an attorney. I'm grateful for the healthcare workers who are taking this mantle and saying we are not going to violate our patients' privacy. I would like to thank the business owners who are still keeping their undocumented workers supported. I would like to also thank everybody in this room. It is back-breaking work every day. And somebody, I'm winding down now. I'm just thinking. But it's back-breaking work from the pandemic now to an administration that doesn't understand the social blanket of what we do. So thank you all that every hour when things change, you change with it, and you still have the energy to go next week, let's do this again next week. Hopefully we will be out of this situation, as we say, inshallah, sooner than expected, but thank you everybody in this room.
Just back on Claire, Damaris, and Lenita, thank you all, and thank you all of you for being here with us. I would like to also thank my combatant. I call her combatant. Just put your hand together for Dr. Gabo for bringing this thing together for us. Thank you. She's a real fighter. That's combatant. That's what it means. We fight on a daily basis. So what be two things that I've seen just on the 28th of January, I received a call from a mom who's expected to have a child on March 25th. And she called me panicking, telling me what I'm going to do. My child will not have a US passport. My child will not have a social security card because I'll be giving birth after February 19th. And she was really panicking, telling me, what should I do? What can I do? I don't feel good. And I told her just to call a health center because she didn't really feel good. She was really panicking. She has to call a health center to receive some care because she was really panicking, upbeat, not knowing what to do. And at this point, she couldn't even go to work. She has to remain home, okay, because of that situation. So that's what I see. The second thing, we did a Know Your Rights sessions at one of the schools that we are so proud of, called Toussaint Louverture Academy. So we did that for few parents who showed up. Usually we have about 20 parents who showed up for this meeting done every month. But that night, we only have 4 parents who showed up for the meeting. And the questions they ask are, I am undocumented, and I have 2 children. I cannot really take them to Haiti. What about, and number 3, I don't have any family members here. I don't have a friend here to leave my child. What about if I get picked up by ICE on my way out? What would happen to my children? I know it's hard for me to go to Haiti. I don't mind going to Haiti and get killed, but I would like to have a future for my children. What's going to happen to them? Who's going to care for them if I get picked up? Think about it. Thank you so much.
No, Dr. Gabot had promised to present me with an Academy Award. I would like to thank the Academy. No, I'm Frank DeVito, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Immigrant Collaborative. And the timing of this event is stunning to me. So 5 years ago, the collaborative was formed. And it was formed in response to COVID-19. And there are so many parallels. So think about this. In March of 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic, you had the Hentia Alpha, you had IFSI, the Brazilian Worker Center. So we're a collaborative of 15 organizations. We're able to organize just on a dime to deal with the crisis. And I don't know if folks know how, if in another life I would have been a scientist. I just love science. How a virus works. What we're facing now is very similar to what we faced in the pandemic. So if I was going to take Dr. Gabot, the DNA sequence in Dr. Gabot, that beautiful DNA sequence, and I wrote it down, the Boston Public Library wouldn't be able to fit it. That's how extensive a DNA sequence is. But if I took a virus, I could fit the code of a virus on this card. And I'm thinking about, we're dealing with an existential threat with the current administration. And they have a virus. And what's crazy about a virus, the way a virus works, is the virus has to, in a sense, change just a few codes so that the body is not notified. The body doesn't know that it's sick. And the body starts believing that its sickness is what's normal. And that's what's happening now. What sickness is, our collective sickness is what's considered normal. So I consider, think about in 2020, you had universities, labs across the world working on vaccines, which is, for anyone who knows how hard it is to work and develop a vaccine in that short a time, it's miraculous, it's a miracle. And I realized we collectively are the vaccines. We're the hope. We're the ones who are going to change the DNA code. And so, when I tell my kids what I do for work, I say, I walk with giants. So thank you for your support, and thank you for the Academy Award.
Wonderful. A big round of applause for all of my partners in crime. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Dr. We appreciate you, and thank you for giving the audience a sense of what's going on in the community right now. Thank you. At the end. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So again, I know some of you are coming from different backgrounds, different communities, and understanding, hearing from them directly what's going on the ground is important, because that's how you know how big this issue is. It's about children. It's about parents, with the fear of losing their children. It's about members of the community who cannot even go to the grocery stores. Every day we hear people say, oh wow, when I go to Stop and Shop, the line used to be so long. And now here I am going, and then 1, 2, 3, I'm out of the door. It means that people are not even going out to get the food that they need. It's about the health centers telling us what's going on. So many people are missing their appointments. So it is something that is very, very, very ugly that's happening. So it's important for us to understand that, and that's one of those reasons I wanted to start the day with you understanding what's going on in the ground. But as I said, the good thing is that we are not losing hope. As Fred said, we are working on that vaccine. We've been working on that vaccine for a long time. And that's the reason why we have so many advocates who are fighting day in and day out to help us, move through this maze that we are in right now. So at this point, I'm going to call Liz Elizabeth from Mira Coalition. I'm going to call, Heather Young from MLRI. Jennifer, you have to help me because you have the list. And Jacob, where's Jacob or Minion from LCR? Okay. Where is Jill? Jill, are you around? Jill? Sibyl from Mabel.
And Susan Church.
Suzanne, is Suzanne here? Okay, Suzanne. And we also have Brian from IDG Institute. Yes, Democracy. Okay. All right. So, all right, let's those are, giants, working behind the scene, okay, to make things happen. And they're going to give us a quick update of, where they are. We're going to have policies update, lawsuits update, advocacy update, all of those updates that we need to understand that, of course, things are bad, but we are working diligently. The good thing is that their updates are going to be brief because you will have a chance to be with them, okay, when we go and break out in the breakout sessions, so we can talk more about what's going on in that space. So let me start with Liz. And again, guys, please show them how much we love them because they are working really hard.
All right, we are working hard at Mira right now. And I'm not going to talk about everything we are doing, but what I really want to talk about right now is that, our colleagues already this morning have shared with us what an incredibly tough moment we're in, right? And yet, we all have so much power, right? We have so much power, we cannot underestimate the power we have as individuals and as this amazing group that are coming together today. We must number well over 200 people, and I saw lots more name tags of folks that are still coming in. So we know there's so much strength right here in this room. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the efforts that MIRA are making right now. We are advocating on a number of different fronts that we think will make a real difference and can make a real difference for folks here in Massachusetts right now. We are not powerless. It may feel that way sometimes with everything coming down from the federal government, but there's a lot we can do here in Massachusetts to protect our folks, to protect each other, okay? So one of the biggest things, and Damaris already spoke about this a little bit, is that if you have not already attended a Know Your Rights presentation, please attend a Know Your Rights presentation. MIRA is doing them, we have them on our website. There are so many organizations around the state that are putting on Know Your Rights presentations. Make sure that you have gotten educated about your rights, and if you want to take it a step further, learn how to train other people on their rights. MIRA does train the trainers, and there's lots more opportunities for that. When we all know what rights we have and assert them, it helps protect everyone's rights around us, right? We know now in Massachusetts that there are businesses where ICE has come to that business. ICE agents have shown up at that door, and someone has known that they can turn them away and say, you do not have a warrant, you will not enter this business. And they have sent ICE away. We need to be doing that again and again, day after day, right? So get educated, feel ready, make plans. If your kid is at school, make a plan at the school. If you are a part of a church, make sure your church has a plan. We all should have plans for how we handle if ICE shows up, and make sure that we hold them to the rights that we have. Okay. MIRA, for anyone who does not know, we are a membership coalition that so many of the organizations in this room are a part of, and we come together to advocate. And we met last November after the election and talked about what should we be doing right now. And what came out of that is a campaign that we launched earlier this year called the Protecting Our Immigrant Communities campaign. And we invite you all to join with us in that campaign. What we are doing is we are trying to push at the state level, at the Massachusetts level. We can do things that protect our communities. So we are pushing first for the Safe Communities Act. For everyone who's proud of what Mayor Wu did the other week. She is defending our Trust Act here in Boston, right? The fact that our Boston law right now says that immigration is not being enforced by our state and local police, right? We are here to do public safety, and that's why Boston is so safe, not to enforce immigration law. And so what we're trying to do with the Safe Communities Act is make that the law across all of Massachusetts, okay? So that all across Massachusetts, if you have an interaction with police, they will not be asking about your immigration status. If you are in custody for some reason, that they will not turn you over to immigration, etc., that you will be told of your rights. So that's the Safe Communities Act, which we're trying to lift up. We're also lifting up a bill called Dignity Not Deportation. That is a bill to end 287G agreements, which are when our state taxpayer dollars pay our state correctional officers or police to then do immigration enforcement. We don't want those kinds of agreements here in Massachusetts. We need to get rid of the last remaining 287G agreements. And that bill would also eliminate further detention beds contracts happening in this state. So we would get detention out of the state and do everything we can to get ICE out of this state. We can't get them out completely. And then the third bill we're pushing under this is a new bill. It's called the Immigrant Legal Defense Act, and we are incredibly excited about this one. This is a bill, I'm glad some of you know what we're talking about already. This bill is because for folks that go into immigration court, they do not have the right now to a government paid attorney, right? This bill would mean that at least here in Massachusetts, we would be putting state dollars into paying for immigration attorneys for people facing detention and deportation. And this is one of the best ways we have at the state level what we can do to actually protect folks. The data actually shows, and this is incredible, y'all, the data shows that a detained immigrant with representation is 10 times more likely to win their case. 10 times. Yes. And so this would make a huge difference if we're able to pass that. So if you want to show up and help us advocate for any of these things, next week we will be at the State House. It is Immigrants Day at the State House. It is our favorite day of the year right now. And everyone is welcome. If you are an immigrant, if you are an ally to immigrants, please show up for Immigrants Day at the State House. It's going to be next Wednesday, March 19th. We open the doors at 9 a.m. We'll have entertainment starting at 10. We'll have a speaking program at 11. We encourage people to get there early because the lines are long, long, long. And we've had people not get in and miss it because they were standing in line outside. So get there early, get inside, have time to connect with all the amazing folks there, and join the meetings. Go talk to your legislators, go drop off literature, tell them how important this is to you. Tell them that this is the time for Massachusetts to stand up and say that we protect our communities here in Massachusetts. Thank you all.
Thank you, Liz. My name is Heather Yonts. I'm the Senior Immigration Law Attorney at the Massachusetts Law Reform Institute. I'm here to tell you what Trump is trying to do with his executive orders and how we've already stopped him many times. Yes. Yes. Trump is using these anti-immigration policies in an attempt to distract us from the economy, the price of groceries, the stock market, and billionaires ransacking the United States. Look over here, blame the immigrants. They're the reason America is not great right now. That's what he's trying to say. And it's not working. His erratic and reckless actions are being met with clear, consistent, law-based, constitution-based resistance and advocacy. The results are the courts are stopping these floundering moves, both here in the United States and internationally. His former supporters are stopping to think. His approval rating is at a dismal 45%. And even some of his biggest fans at Fox News have turned on him. So here are some of the things Trump is trying to do, and here's how it's not working. Trump is trying to terrify immigrants into self-deporting, into leaving the country. He's lying about immigrants not showing up for hearings, and then he's using that lie as a way to make immigrants' lives miserable. So we know it's a lie. 96% of immigrants show up for hearings when they have a lawyer. 83% show up when they don't have a lawyer, and that number is very low because a large number of those people never received it because it didn't come in the mail. He lies about the bond program. He calls it catch and release. It makes you think that when you're fishing and you catch a big fish and then you send it back into the ocean. That is not at all what's happening. It's the opposite. There's a judicial program of allowing someone to leave detention if they're not a flight risk or a danger to the public. But if he detains all immigrants seeking asylum until they're either granted asylum or deported, maybe they'll be miserable enough to give up and self-deport. He used the same lie of asylum seekers not showing up for their hearings as an excuse to reinstate Remain in Mexico, or the Migrant Protection Protocol, where immigrants are forced to stay in dangerous Mexico without any lawyers. And maybe if they're forced to be in Mexico, routinely kidnapped, they'll give up and go back to their home countries. It's not working. The lawsuits have been filed for both the detention program and the Remain in Mexico program. These are tired old policies that he trotted out again, despite them being struck down by the courts the first time. And perhaps the most egregious attempt to make immigrants miserable enough to self-deport is the rescission of Biden's Protected Areas memo. So under Biden and previous administrations, schools, churches, domestic violence shelters, hospitals were all considered protected areas that ICE could not enter absent an extreme emergency. Trump got rid of this because nothing scares immigrants more than the fear of having their children taken away. And we all remember that from the last administration with the horrific family separation policy. Many of the immigrants we worked with were terrified of their children coming home from school to an empty house because mom or dad had been picked up by ICE that day. They hadn't even thought about their child being arrested at school. But just by rescinding that protected areas memo, Trump struck fear in the hearts of all immigrants. Can you imagine what it takes for an immigrant parent to keep their child home from school? You traveled all the way here, you brought your children here so that their kids could live in a country where they're safe, where they have opportunities that the parents don't have. Many of the children weren't able to attend schools in their home countries because they were too expensive or too dangerous or they didn't admit girls. They survived starving and freezing, kidnapping, assaults on the long journey north so that their children would live in a country that would give them school, that would lead them to opportunity. Parents who are having to stay home, they have to miss work, even though they can barely make ends meet, and missing a day may mean getting fired. But they're doing it because they're terrified for their children. And they're intensely sad at what they're seeing happen at the presidential level. But it's not working. There are lawsuits filed by churches and schools. All faiths have come together to resist this outrageous attack on our First Amendment right to worship. States like Massachusetts are working to protect these important protected areas. Here in Massachusetts, our Attorney General has pushed back against this attack on our rights. The state of Massachusetts has led a number of trainings on this. Schools, hospitals, churches now have programs that stand up to ICE officers, just as Liz said. Immigrants and immigrant-serving people are attending and giving these Know Your Rights trainings at record levels, very much in thanks to MIRA, to IFSI, all of the groups that are doing this. Trump's goal is mass deportation. He's putting a sloppy, indiscriminate mass deportation plan into place that is a far cry from his promises to deport the supposed worst of the worst immigrants. There isn't a single executive order mentioning immigrants who are of criminal anything, basically. He's trying to deport as many people as possible. He wants numbers. ICE officers are expected to reach certain quotas each day. There's no mention of who these immigrants are, whether they might be dangerous, whether they were arrested the day before. He's gotten rid of the priorities of the Biden and Obama administrations. Under Biden and Obama, if you had a prior removal order, if you were a supposed criminal immigrant, which we all know can mean very small offenses, then you were a priority for deportation. Trump, when he got rid of that, opened the way for mass deportation. So now a grandmother who has been living here for 45 years, not so much as a traffic ticket, is just as deportable as someone who had supposedly been removed 4 times and committed a crime in the United States. And the result of that is that the number of criminal immigrants in criminal backgrounds who are getting deported under the Trump administration is much lower. Most of the people, in fact, 50% of the people on Guantanamo Bay right now have no criminal record whatsoever. He's being lazy. He's going after the legal immigrants so that he can get his numbers up. He's trying to go after the people who lawfully followed all the rules of the previous administration, who offered their names and addresses to the government in exchange for status. He's trying to end temporary protected status for Venezuelans, for Haitians. He's trying to end the categorical parole programs, like the Cuban, Haitian, Venezuelan, Nicaraguan program, like the CBP-1 program, which was the program on the border with a lottery-based system. Those were allowing people to enter the United States on a 2-year humanitarian parole. They were coming in for urgent humanitarian reasons. Afghans, when Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, are under parole. Ukrainians, when Russia invaded. He's trying to end the refugee program. It's not working. The refugee program suspension has already been stopped by the courts. Lawsuits are filed on TPS and parole, and they're working their way through the courts. A president is not a king. A person who tries to be a dictator is not living in a dictatorship. Perhaps the most egregious and lazy thing Trump is doing is expanding what we call expedited removal, which is a form of deportation without even the ability to see a judge. It used to be used only for people who entered the country without inspection, so they crossed at a non-port of entry. Now it's being used for people who followed all the rules and gave their government their information, trusting that it would allow them to stay. That rule of being on the border recently in previous administrations was expanded to people who entered the country within 2 weeks of crossing the border, within 25 miles of the border. Well, they haven't been here very long, so they're going to still be subject to removal without a hearing. Trump expanded that to 2 years and 100 miles from a port of entry, which includes airports. So that's the entire United States. He's increased money to private prisons. He's opened up Guantanamo Bay. But it's not working. There are lawsuits on expedited removal on Guantanamo Bay. People are rising up and resisting the effort to attack our immigrant brothers and sisters. He's trying to create chaos and confusion. The birthright citizenship, trying to rewrite the Constitution with an executive order. It wasted a lot of time for a lot of lawyers. And it's been enjoined by many courts. Trump is trying to scapegoat immigrants and the people who help them. As Liz said, he's trying to expand these 287G agreements that are deputizing state and local officers. He's trying to punish sanctuary jurisdictions, directing the Attorney General and DHS to take civil criminal action against sanctuary jurisdictions, looking to strip federal funding. He's made threats to lawyers and organizations who work with immigrants, saying that people that facilitate the presence of undocumented immigrants can be subject to civil fines and penalties. But we're not scared. We know what is right. We're suing on the sanctuary jurisdictions on the programs that have not been funding, and we're already winning. Trump actually had to reinstate funding because it was so unpopular. Finally, Trump is trying to look like a war hero, because everybody knows that a president in a time of war is a more popular president, right? So let's make a war. He's using the Insurrection Act, the Alien Enemies Act, the state of emergency together to call up the National Guard and Reserve so that they can start to arrest, detain, and deport immigrants, despite the fact that they are not allowed to do that on the Posse Comitatus Act here in the United States. There's all of these exceptions that he's trying to put in place. And then he's trying to force all immigrants to register and have their fingerprints taken. The history of this is that the day after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt halted all naturalization ceremonies for Japanese, German, and Italians living in America. He then required them to register and have their fingerprints taken under this act. This led to curfews, to internment of immigrants in America because they were seen as possible enemy combatants. That's the history here. Recently, after September 11th, Muslims, Arabs, and South Asians were subjected to this kind of broadsword registration effort known as NSEERS. The idea was to collect all these community groups, all of these people together, with the hope that maybe some of them might be terrorists or problems for the United States. It was an enormous failure. And now we have the new registration. If people don't register, they'll be fined $5,000 and or put in jail for 6 months. If they're over 18 and they don't carry their registration, they'll be jailed for 10 days or fined $5,000. If they change their address and they don't report within 10 days, they'll be jailed and or fined $5,000. And he's trying to restore travel bans. Again, he's trying to make America whiter. He's saying the Muslim ban is even bigger and stronger than before, right? He's revoking the student visas of pro-Palestinian immigrant protesters. You all have probably heard about Mahmoud Khalil. He was disappeared by the U.S. government This is a Palestinian Syrian man who was a leader in the Columbia University protests. He was in his home when ICE officers entered, said, "Hey, we're revoking your student visa and we're retaining you." His US citizen wife, who was 8 months pregnant, said, "He doesn't have a student visa, he has a green card." And they said, "Oh, we're revoking that too." They threatened to arrest the US citizen wife. They took him, they put him in a detention facility, and then they disappeared him. His attorney, his wife, nobody knew where he was. The only reason people found him in Louisiana is because somebody in the media tracked him down. This is happening here in the United States to a green card holder. And it's not working. We are going to stand up to this. We are not going to allow this kind of thing that has happened in so many other countries happen here. I'm so grateful to Dr. Gabo and to the other people standing up here with me, because we together are the voice of reason, and we are fighting back against outrageous actions in a very difficult time. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, again, Ella, please, just thank you. Thank you. I know that you've been sitting for a long time, so you can have a seat, but thank you for, basically, both of them, they gave us a real panorama, right, of everything that is happening. And at the end of the day, if you didn't know what's going on, now there is no excuse, because now you know. Thank you again for doing that. Wonderful. So, now we have, I'm going to get to Jill quickly to give us a quick overview of the asylum, and then both lawyers for civil rights and IDJ, they're going to just name the lawsuit that they're working on. The reason why, because they're coming back and they're going to really explain more. So it's just like 10 seconds of an overview. When you come back to that panel, you can explain more in detail what's going on. So let me get Jill first to give us a quick overview, because again, we are moving. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jill Sieber, Executive Director at Naval Center for Immigrant Justice, and kind of, I guess, giving a brief update, mindful of time, where things are kind of with asylum, along with the moving parts. Those guys laid out such a great overview of all the ways in which the current administration is pushing back and how we're pushing back in return. What I would like to just focus on for the few minutes that I have is the return of family detention. So, Naval Centers, a lot of our roots are having served and volunteered and try to help families get out of family detention when they arrived in the U.S. and sought asylum. So, this version of family detention is even more insidious. It's not just keeping arriving families until they've passed a credible fear and agree to seek asylum. It's rounding up families and detaining them who may not have something in process, who don't have something filed, who have parole that's been, going away. And it's something that's well documented and inhumane. We're talking small children, babies, families. So we're working with Raíces, who's leading the main pushback against family detention. They'll be filing something. Naval Center is going to go volunteer in family detention centers again. But it's just one more reminder of the cruelty of the system, that people are pushing back. We're excited to be a part of it, along with all the other advocates and skilled attorneys in the room. So that's a brief update on that, and if there's pushback, but I'm going to turn it over.
Yes,
since you have a lot.
And then you will have more time to explain during the part of this session. Thank you, Mabel. And again, all of those are people really working around the clock to push back. And can I hear this word from you? Let's say it together so that we can feel it. Push back. Let's go. Push back. Again, push back. We are pushing back because we are not going to take this. We're not going to go back to the slavery time, right? We're not going to go back to dictatorship time. So we are, what are we going to do? Push back. Wonderful. Now we have lawyers for civil rights. You don't just to name the lawsuit. I know a couple, and then I know IDGH.
is also working on some lawsuit. And then, like I said, we'll be coming back to the panel to explain more.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Love. I'm a senior attorney at Lawyers for Civil Rights in Boston. Over the last few months, unfortunately, LCR has had to become a lot more responsive to crisis at the federal level, rather than developing litigation to move the needle forward. For the last 2 years before the Trump administration started, I was primarily developing litigation to combat the affordable housing crisis, which I know everybody in this room is familiar with. It has a disparate impact on people of color and immigrant communities. But unfortunately, with the onset of the Trump administration, my colleagues and I have really had to shift gears to preserving fundamental rights that had been recognized by administrations of both political parties for decades, and in the case of the birthright citizenship case, for over a century. So just to give a brief update on that, on the first day of the Trump administration, we filed a lawsuit challenging the executive order which gutted birthright citizenship for the children of immigrant families. I think Heather mentioned that. I've heard some people say that it was an easy case because the claims were so strong, and that's true to some extent, but litigating a case against the federal government is always difficult, especially against the Trump administration. Even though legal experts across the spectrum were saying that it was blatantly unconstitutional, they brought it because they think that they're going to have a sympathetic audience at the Supreme Court that might accept these sort of fringe policies. So we have to be ready to continue pushing back against these policies. And just as a brief update, we did get an injunction, and so the executive order is currently not in effect, and it's currently undergoing the appeals process.
Hi everyone, my name is Marian Albert. I'm also a senior attorney at Lawyers for Civil Rights, and I've been working with Jake on a lot of the lawsuits that have been coming out of our office lately. I also just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Brazilian Workers Center, who we're representing in the birthright citizenship case. We definitely could not do it without the courage and bravery of our community partners and the Brazilian Workers Center and HAU and IFSI, and a lot of the groups that are here today have always been willing to step forward and defend people's rights. And so thank you very much for your support in that sense. So I'm going to talk about two recent lawsuits that we also filed. One of them, we are representing the city of Chelsea and Somerville to protect sanctuary city policies. And so that's ongoing. We'll definitely keep you updated on how that develops. And then the other lawsuit that we just recently filed is to protect TPS for Haitian and Venezuelan. And that lawsuit is extremely important because there's over 900,000 people who have TPS under Venezuela and Haiti. These are a huge part of our communities, like has already been said before, right? These are people who are doctors, nurses, teachers, students, every part of society. And so we have to make sure that those protections stay in place, especially because we know that Venezuela and Haiti are still undergoing a lot of political crises and instability, and that it's extremely unsafe for communities to be deported back or sent back to their countries of origin. And so we filed that March 3rd, and a few days after that we filed a motion to make sure that the Trump administration's orders don't go into effect. We're hoping to be before a judge later on this month, and so we'll keep you all updated on those developments as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Concannon with the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, and I'm extremely grateful to be here. Being here today reminds me of a Haitian proverb, men on peel, in English, that's many hands makes the world light. And Haitians have been using that for 200 years. They used it to beat Napoleon at his peak, to have to beat the U.S. occupation. They've done it to restore democracy over and over again. In the U.S., we've also done the same thing. Whenever our pendulum has swung, our political pendulum has swung towards hate and victimizing our most vulnerable populations, it's been many hands together that pushes the pendulum back towards our basic values and our Constitution. And this is a moment where we're all overwhelmed when we answer our phone, we look at our emails, we read the news, because we think there's nothing we can do. I think there's nothing I can do to stop this. And I'm right, there's nothing I can do to stop this. But there's something that we can do. And that's to continue to push back, as Dr. Gallo said. So, two quick things that we're doing at IJDH. One, and this is especially for people who work on asylum claims, we put together the country condition information that people need to file asylum claims and the judges need to adequately understand what's going on in Haiti. It's a very complicated situation. Many judges aren't familiar with Haiti, so we've got materials, including every 6 months we put out a report. It's got 500 footnotes on it, lots of resources. So please, you can check that on our website and let me know, and I'll tell you how to access that and other information. The second thing is, we haven't done it yet, but before this conference is over, I think it will happen, is another TPS lawsuit, this one being filed in Brooklyn on behalf of Haitians. Everything that Miriam said applies to our lawsuit. And one thing is that both, as with LCR, this is a rerun of another lawsuit that was filed the first time that Trump tried to do this. And we were successful the first time. And the lawyers aren't going to guarantee that we're going to be successful again. It's a complex, challenging environment, as you know. So we can't promise victory, but history promises that when enough of us stand up to bullies, we win.
So let's say together, when we fight, we win. Oh, I cannot hear you. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, we'll come back to give more detail about the lawsuit. Wonderful. Thank you. And now we have two wonderful women. I don't know, men. I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to. But some women are, moving things. Wonderful. So we have both Susan Church and our wonderful Christina leading ORI, who are coming to give us an update on what's going on. Just so you know, we are thinking about you.
I actually saw his double somewhere around here representing his son. All right. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you, Dr. Gallo, for putting this together. I wanted to talk about what happened a year ago. Because a year ago, I was right here in front of all of you. And if you might remember, I was grateful for everyone who had already stepped up, but I was also just really looking to make a request and a plea to make sure that we came together, that we really could come together with the state, with nonprofit organizations, with the community, to ensure that this, what was a so-called crisis, which was immigrants choosing Massachusetts as their home, could be seen as the massive opportunity that we know that is for our communities, for every single corner of our communities. So the fact that we were able to make sure that we welcome with dignity over 20,000 individuals to not only our state, but our shelter system, to our programs, to the community-based organizations programs with volunteers in the middle of the night looking for hotel rooms, trying to support. I see so many people who step up with violin classes at the children's, by your son, with just in an incredible array of programs and opportunities to make sure that together we could show them dignity, compassion, and also listen to what they were telling us loud and clear. We want to work. We have the skills. They just needed that extra open door to make sure that they could make it. And all of us, so many people here, came together to do that. And that was a massive undertaking. I'm exhausted, and I'm sure you all are. And it would not have been able to happen just with the state. It would not have been able to happen just with the government, with the nonprofit organizations. It really took every single one of us. It took my family stepping up in the middle of a weekend. It took Susan's family stopping things to make sure that they support me. It took all of your families, your churches, your everyone that you call on. So I wanted to just really highlight that, to first make sure that you all turn to your right and be like, or your left, and tap that person by you in the shoulder, give them a hug because they're absolutely amazing. But also, I wanted you to do that, and yes, please go ahead, do so. But I don't want to do this just to feel good. I want to do this so that you can really understand the power that we have on our hands, because we did it, and we're going to do it again, against all odds, against all threats, because our communities are here, and we're going to support them, and we're going to welcome them with dignity, and we're going to make sure that they stay here, because all they do is contribute and build up our society. So we got this, we can do this. We build ESOL programs, we've been able to give Chromebooks to so many places so that when they exit the shelter system, they also do so in a self-sustainable way. And we're building Ronnie Miller is building a home share program out of the Brazilian Worker Center host family program. And we're going to be recruiting 200 families that will receive a stipend to host people and host families for 12 months. So we're continuing to expand and to think through the creativity and the love, because everything is coming from a place of love. And whatever comes to us, and the last 2 months has been a lot, we're going to be able to do it, because that's the type of community that we are. And one thing that I really wanted to just super highlight is that it was all done because of collaboration, communication, and cooperation. And we need to do that at the litigation level, make sure that we're all on the same page. We need to do that at the programs level to make sure we don't step on each other's feet. And we need to do that so that the strategy can be greater than us and for the greater purpose of our community.
Amen.
I don't know what I could possibly say. I mean, come on. Jeez. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Well, I was actually noticing while Christina was talking and listening to her very inspiring speech, almost every table in this room has 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 people who helped make the TPS clinics work. We filed over 3,200 TPS applications. I barely see a table here that doesn't have somebody who had some contribution to that. And now we have lawsuits that are going to be filed and are already filed to protect that right to do it. So it does take everybody's hand, everybody's role. I just have a much more boring role than Christina, and Heather took all my federal updates, so I literally have nothing left to say. But I do want to say the state has been doing good work and has been doing a pretty phenomenal job. I am extremely happy to live in a blue state, as I'm sure most of you are. So some of the things we've been doing is, along with ACLU, MLRI, and a whole host of other legal organizations, we are trying to coordinate litigation across the state. The #1 mistake we made last time, and are honestly doing it again today, is refusing to coordinate with each other. Refusing to talk to each other. Refusing to say, where's the best jurisdiction to file? Where's the best lawsuit to file? Who's the best to file? What's the best plaintiff? Who's got standing? Because unlike last time, the issues are way more complicated this time. We have a Supreme Court who's not on our side. We have massive changings to standing issues. We have nationwide injunction limitations, and yet people are still rushing to court. I get it, it's an emergency, but please be part of the solution and coordinate with the different groups. If you're with a legal organization and you want to join, it's open to anybody in the state, please reach out to us. Second of all, the state set up after this rapid response network, also set up a policy for shelter providers about what to do if ICE does come to their door, including a hotline for all shelter providers in the state to call so that they understand the rights and the responsibilities as a shelter provider if ICE comes to your door. We have now at this state reached well over 6,000 people in our Know Your Rights presentations. They have been done in almost every shelter in the state now, not everyone, but almost every shelter. They have been done at universities, colleges, churches. All the EA providers across the state are been made aware of the fundamental rights that they and their residents have so that they can protect their residents if the time comes. We have an amazing Attorney General in this state who has been, I don't know how they get the time, but they have filed TPS amicus filings, probation. They just got a lawsuit, a TRO last night on the probationary firing of federal employees. They won a PI, preliminary injunction on the resettlement agencies and the defunding of resettlement agencies. They won a preliminary injunction on the Office of Budget and OMB memo that defunded basically anybody who dealt with immigrants. It was like, that's how the memo was written. If you work with immigrants, you're defunded. Like, it made no sense. And they won a lawsuit against that. They won a preliminary injunction against the birthright citizen, where the judge said, and I quote, "This is the most unconstitutional order I have ever seen in my 40 years on the bench." And if you don't think I read that over 15 times and told everybody and their brother about it, you would be wrong. So I just want to thank everybody for all their roles in all of this, and I want to say you have a state that is behind you. You have a state that supports the work that you do, and is extremely grateful for everything that people have been doing for our new arrivals for many years.
So thank you so much to both Suzanne and Christina, again, amazing allies in the work that we do every single day. And so we want to say thank you to all of the presenters who have given us some vital information this morning. We know that knowledge is power, and the goal of our meeting today is to harness our collective power, right? So you've given us the first foundational pieces, and we're going to be moving on to the afternoon to use those pieces as we come up with opportunities. So before we do that, we've talked a lot about Know Your Rights campaigns, and so we want to share a quick video with you all about the Know Your Rights campaign that we've also done.
Comme nous connaissons, il y a des changements capables de venir dans la période qui venir. Cependant, nous voulons connaître que vous avez droit et nous voulons accompagner pour connaître exactement qui sont à faire si jamais ça tombe à la ou même petit tout ou les familles. C'est ça que fait la vidéo quand je fort on nous suit vidéo ça que nous pouvons spécialement parler qui est petit monde dans le pays.
Dans un moment difficile dans la vie de jeudi, dans le pays des États-Unis, tous sont parents ou ont des responsabilités de monde pour parler pour n'importe quoi qui arrive.
Si on met tout en détention, ou soit sur déportation, pas oublier, on doit prendre toute décision qui concerne les victimes, quelle que soit la situation d'immigration.
Vous avez le droit de faire un téléphone. Même dans tout, vous avez le droit de chercher de connaître. Ils ont qu'à être en contact avec les victimes.
On va obliger l'immigration toute information sur mais si vous voulez, on peut faire, on connaît c'est où qui est responsable principal là. On peut faire tout arrangement pour nous montrer à prendre soin de tout ce voilà.
Pas oublier. Et on prend pour protéger les gens, pour protéger les familles, c'est très bon bagage pour capable faire. Ensuite, qui gens sont capables de commencer tout ce ça sans perdre du temps.
Alors ça, avec Dieu décidé, qui est responsable pour petit tout pendant qu'on parle là. Qui ça va besoin de santé mentale, santé physique, santé relationnelle, et éducation. Pensez pour que tout document d'immigration bien organisé et en sécurité. Ça veut dire protéger tout à famille.
Et puis, pas oublier que les contacts avec l'école petite. C'est l'école là qu'on est qui est sous cette confiance pour venir prendre petit tout dans le cas où on ne peut pas faire ça. Assurez tout de protéger vie privée avec l'information sur petit tout.
Mes amis, détention ou soit déportation, pas de dire abandonner, c'est pas vrai pour le parler. Toujours songer, font plan pour protéger la famille. Si bien tout fait aux États-Unis, vous êtes capable d'enregistrer naissance dans le consulat pays. Ça aide les petits pour voyager ou bien retourner plus facilement dans le pays si ça est nécessaire. Avec un passeport petit tout si ça vous convient.
Sur des questions sous droit, ou soit procédure d'immigration, toujours consulter un avocat ou soit une organisation crédible qui t'a aidé à plus d'informations.
Amis, protéger tes droits de famille. Faire un plan aujourd'hui pour préparer pour demain. Famille, écoute grandement.
Évitez mieux passer dans les pardons. L'autre fait à l'avance pour ka dormi tranquille, et quel que soit ça qui est arrivé, ou pas de peur, parce qu'on vient planifier. Abi, nous là pour nous, il y a un avocat dans la communauté, il y a une organisation, mais différentes de nous habiter qui a aidé nous. À hésiter, chita, proposer, planifier, pour dire, si jamais on va arriver, on va arriver passer.
So now we're going to invite up Dr. Gabo, who's going to give her new presentation right before we go into our breakout sessions.
Okay, no, yeah. This was for the parents. So we have the general one. So we will, while we are eating, we play for you the general your rights, the card, and so on and so forth. But we have we have different ones for the parents, for the community leaders, the faith leaders, and for the general community. So we do them both in Haitian, Creole, and English, and we have some Spanish coming up quickly. So we are now, this is important, and I would love for everyone to have a seat, because we are setting the stage to send you to your breakout home. The beauty of coming for a symposium is for us to get an opportunity for us to meet together with different stakeholders, so we can discuss the different sectors. So today we have the legal sector. They're going to be talking with among themselves, and others are invited to join them, and Jennifer will tell you exactly where to go. But before I send you to your breakout room, I am bringing something to you that unfortunately that you don't hear often. It's the idea of future-proofing whatever that you are doing. So when we are looking at the landscape that we are in right now, it's almost like all of the gains that we had, made or that we had earned, it's almost like you feel that you are losing those gains with the new administration. And what happens is that when you understand this notion of thinking ahead of time, thinking about what could come, that prepares you so that there is a surprise. So today I'm going to quickly, next, talk to you about something called Foresight. I went to school, and so often people say, "What's you get your PhD in?" And when I say it, I try not to say, because whenever I say that, people are like, "What is it about?" So my background is around what we call strategic foresight. Foresight is what we call the ability, to predict, or the ability to think about what's coming, and so you can take actions now. So we're not holding a crystal ball in our hands, and we are reading the future. No. But we are looking at the trends. We are looking at every single piece of information that is coming our way for us to make the decision about the future. So basically, it's like today, we need to know what's coming in 2030. So we can make plans, and so that there is a surprise. And that's the reason why when I'm looking at what's going on right now, I'm like, we should have been doing that a long time ago to be ready for this administration so that we can take this step. Quickly, so Alvin Toffler, you probably know, someone who has been working a lot in this field, said change. Can we read it together? Let's read together because I want it to be active. Change is the process by which the future invades our life. So we are not in the future. But if we want to see change, we need to invite the future in our lives. And that's the only way for us to see change. And one of the other things that we said, when we're talking about staying ahead of change, thinking about what's coming, is that we need to anticipate. So for example, we have this new administration, we see what we are seeing right now, but we need to start anticipating on what's coming. What exactly is going to throw at us for us to be ready? So that's the reason why when we're talking about anticipating new actions, right? So that we can take them early, before others, before being forced. Because so often when we're waiting at the last minute, we are making decisions, last-minute decisions, it feels like we are forced to make those decisions. And when you are forced to make them, guess what? You do not make good decisions. So that's one of the reasons why it's important for us to anticipate those changes. And that's what I want you, when you go to your breakout room, I want you to be thinking about all of those changes that are coming at us. How do we anticipate them so we can take action for them? So, and we're going to talk about 3 futures. The first one is what we call the expected future, for us to be thinking about. The other one is what we call the alternative or preferred future. And the last one is what we call surprise future. So let me test you for just 1 second. So if I'm talking about expected future, in the back, what do you think I'm talking about? Expected future, what I'm talking about? In the back, my people, I know that you're smart. Here, start thinking about the alternative or preferred, and here, the surprise. So here, what do you think I'm talking about if I'm talking about think about the expected future? What do you think I'm talking about? One person. You can try. Who? Come on, one person. Yes. Wonderful, great job. We expect it future. And here, if I'm talking about an alternative of preferred future, what do you think I'm referring to? Here. Come on, Anna. I can see that you're ready. What do you think? Alternative or preferred future? What is this? Okay, clear.
The hope that for the intended outcome that you want.
The intended outcome that you want. Okay. And here, if I'm talking about surprise future, what do you think? What do you think? Surprise future. Come on. I know that you're smart.
I don't know, this administration collapses.
That's a good one. Alright, that's good. Good job, guys. Good job. So quickly, let's go through next one. Yeah. Okay. So most of you passed the test. Okay. So when we're talking about the expected future, is where our things are like right now. Where are they heading toward? So when we look at the administration right now, when you look at all of the memos, all of those executive orders, okay? When we look at all of the firing, closing entire Department of Education, closing, all of the big scientific communities. So where do you think we are heading? It's almost like this is a given. This is a given. Thinking about what's going on, where are we heading? And that's what I want each of the sectors to go and think about, where are we heading? Okay? It's the result of conditions. Like what this is based on the condition, this is what we should expect. Let's go to the second one. So that's the one that I like the most. The alternative or the preferred future. So thinking about what to expect. Okay, this administration is telling us this is what we should expect. The question for us is, are we going to go with what they're giving us? Is there any alternative? So what might happen instead? Instead of ending TPS, is there something else that could happen? Instead of sending people in detention center, is there something else that could happen? So it's basically you looking at the expected future and said, do I want it or do I not want it? If I want it, I will keep it. But if I don't want it, I have to do something about it. Does that make sense? And guess what? Guess where I need you to work on this morning? I want you to work on that alternative or preferred future. Because the future that is handing down now to us is not what we want. We want something better. And for that something better
to happen, we need to work on. And the last one, as my dear sister said, the surprise future. The surprise future could be anything that we did not expect. So sometimes people are living on this earth, right? And then before you know it, they go and live on a different planet, right? So it's a surprise because you didn't expect them to go so fast, right? And you understand, right? Okay, so any disruption that happened, right? All of a sudden, again, I'm not giving you ideas. All of a sudden, the entire, team supporting this king decided, you know what, enough is enough, bye. And then everything collapsed, right? So those are the surprise future. But for us, again, this is what we need to start thinking about. Can we survive this moment? And how can we meet this moment? Things do not look right. Things look terrifying. Families cannot go to work. Children cannot go to school. Can we survive this? And how far can we go? So when you go to your group, I need you to start thinking first. Because if you don't know, remember that saying, if you don't know that you are sick, you are not going to look for a doctor, right? So we want you to start thinking about where you are in your sectors. The legal sector, where are you right now? Mental health, where are you? Health in general, where are you? Workforce development, where are you? Okay? All of those sectors are going to meet and discuss what do you understand that is happening right now. Is there any impact on your sector? Because you heard a lot of cutting of funds, right? So many of you, organizations that are here today, may not be here tomorrow. The reason why, like if you think about the resettlement agencies, right? Where's INE? INE is not here. We have Catholic Charities, INE, a number of, yes, exactly, a number of, organizations. They are cutting their funds. So they may not be there tomorrow if there is no fund for them to continue their work. So you need to understand, even though it's not home yet, but it's coming home, right? I'm thinking about ORI, all of the work that they want to do around, that home share, around ESOL classes and so on and so forth. What if they were to say, you know what, all of the funding that you thought you had is no longer there? So you need to start thinking ahead of time and say, okay, what are the potential threats to your sector? What are the challenges? Because that's when you do what we call a risk assessment, understanding where you are now. And then you go to the next one. Now that you have a full picture, you know where you are, the question is it what you want? For the healthcare, for mental health, for legal, for workforce, is it what you want? For education, is it what you want? Okay, so if this is not what you want, the question is, should we try to change it? And if you're going to try to change it, the question is, how are we going to try to change it? What are the opportunities for us to reinvent our sector so that our sector does not die? Okay? And what will be a good scenario for you to put together to show that despite everything that is happening, that yes, there is a way out. So we just talked about pushback, right? So we said push back. But guess what? Saying it doesn't mean anything if there is no actions that is going with that. So that's the reason why today, what I want in the breakout session, what I want you to be thinking, first, where are you heading? The expected future. And I hope all of you, once you look at where are you heading, you said, nope, I don't want it. You said, no, I'm furious about it. I'm angry about it. I don't want it. But we don't want you to stay in the I'm angry about it. You don't want you to stay at I am furious about it. We want you to move to the next level. What are we going to do about it for us to change that? So that's your homework. That's your assignment. And Jennifer is going to tell us where we're going, who is going where, and for how long. Come on, Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, the instructions, there need be nothing else. Like we all know, are we all ready to get fired up? Are we ready? Yes, so now for the next hour or so, we are going to spend time in breakout sessions. And so there are a couple of key folks around the room. You'll notice that it says presenter on your badge, and you're just like, what, I'm presenting? Since when? No. When you go to the breakout session, the intention is that we're hoping that you will be a bit of a guiding voice in there. So we will be working with our IFSI staff who are going to be supporting things like the main facilitation, the main note-taking, a lot of those pieces, giving the structuring of the conversation. But we are hoping that every key leader in here is really sort of taking onus of that conversation and to move it forward. So we are going to have, I have my IFSI staff, we're gonna line up in the back. Each person has a group that's assigned to them. It also works out well because they are assigned to their own department. So every group will rally around their IFSI staff member and they will take them to where they need to go. So after that, people will have about 45 minutes to 1 hour in your breakout session. We are hoping that people come back with tangible things for our share back right before lunch, which will be promptly at 12:15. So we will go around and let everyone know in terms of time. So first we have our legal team. We know legal is probably gonna be a pretty big group. So we have Miss Zama, Attorney Zama, and Miss Barbara, who will be supporting the legal group. So everyone who is here from a legal sector who has an interest in discussing the legal aspects of what we're going through, legal and advocacy, we need you all to rise. Please feel free to take your belongings because we will have a couple of groups in this session, and you will be going upstairs to the Kennedy room, the Edward Kennedy room. So I'm gonna give about a minute or so for all of our legal folks to stand up and follow Miss. Yes. Other sectors, we know that people want to be part of multiple conversations. So other sectors we have are health, mental health, social services, which includes the faith-based organizations, education, which encompasses children's education, and workforce development.
So health, Jamila, and your entire group.
So
yes.
For health,
this is a short version. We have a longer version of it, but again, it's a tool that we want to make available to each and every one of you. All right. So now, as we know, you've been. How is the food? How is the food? How is the food? All right. Can we give a big shout to the team there, the logistics, the food, the chef, everyone for the food, Miss Wood, Miss Stephanie, everyone, Miss Sylvia, Mr. Vital, everyone who has been working so hard so that we can get good Haitian food. We didn't want to have Burger King, right? Pizza, but we wanted to make sure that you have a taste of our pickles. Okay, so now quickly we are moving because again we have a timeline. Miss Jennifer, where are we? Who is coming?
Okay, so we know that you all have some great key takeaways that you want to bring back to us, but we are going to flip the agenda a little bit. So we're going to put up a couple chairs here. We're actually going to start with our panel discussion with a couple of our legal organizations to give more information about the lawsuits. So we're going to have lawyers for civil rights come up, please. MLRI, Jill Siebert from Mabel Center, to be able to do a Q&A portion. We want to open it up to you all to ask some really important questions and to understand what's going on. We will then end with the share back from our teams because we want to make sure that we're leaving rejuvenated and with key takeaways for the day. So if we can have our legal groups come up, please. MLRI, Mabel Center, Lawyers for Civil Rights, if you can please join us for the Q&A.
All right. So,
Susan from ORI, are you still here as well to join?
Okay, so we're going to start with Lawyers for Civil Rights as a way for them to give us a little more detail around the lawsuit, especially the TPS one, to tell us exactly what happened, who was involved, and what are the expectations. And then, guys, please, do pay attention so that you can ask the right questions and understand those processes. Because at the end of the day, when we need you, we need to be able to call on you. So that's the reason why we want for them to explain what's going on. And we know that Heather did a big overview of everything that is happening. So we will have the mic. If you have questions about all of the memos, all of the executive orders and so on and so forth, please ask them. So we have Jill who is here, and we have others who was probably around who will be able to answer those questions. So let's hear from Lawyers for Civil Rights. Jacob, what happened with the lawsuit?
So Lawyers for Civil Rights has filed several lawsuits against the Trump administration since it began. Like I said at the beginning, Like I said at the beginning, we first. Can you hear me better now? So at the outset of the Trump administration, on day one of the Trump administration, actually, we challenged the executive order which stripped birthright citizenship from the children of immigrants. We knew that policy was coming far in advance because the Trump and people in his administration have been talking about it on the campaign trail. So we were able to prepare for that lawsuit. We were drafting the complaint before the administration even started. And Dr. Gabeau wanted me to talk a little bit about plaintiff recruitment and identification for cases like that. So Lawyers for Civil Rights is constantly connected to the community. We're always talking to Dr. Gabeau, Pastor Kiki, anyone who operates or runs a community organization in Boston is connected with us. And so we are always interfacing with them, and when people come to us with questions, with fears, concerns about what Trump was saying on the campaign trail, for example, we had to give them answers, and we had to give them options. And so through that communication, we were able to very quickly identify potential plaintiffs. In the birthright citizenship lawsuit, that was expected mothers who knew that they were going to have a child after the policy took effect and would therefore not be able to have birthright citizenship. Our plaintiff actually, she's named Oh Doe in the lawsuit. She actually has several children. One of them was born in the United States a few years ago before the Trump administration announced this policy, and that child has birthright citizenship. And so she was going to have another child who was going to be born in the exact same circumstances who wouldn't have birthright citizenship, even though their siblings have birthright citizenship. And so that we were able to prepare that lawsuit weeks in advance. But in some cases, it's not perfectly easy to anticipate what the Trump administration is going to do. And so that's why it's so important for us to be in constant communication with community organizations. And that's sort of what happened with the temporary protected status lawsuit. Again, we knew that the Trump administration had been talking about this, but we weren't sure when the policy was going to go into effect. And so we'd been strategizing at LCR for weeks about what we would do and how quickly we would react if the temporary protected status was revoked. As everyone in this room knows, that's what happened for Venezuelans and that's what happened for Haitians. And a lot of people are really scared. The strongest effect that I have seen in response to the Trump administration's policies is fear. The goal here is not necessarily to win in court ultimately. Part of the reason that the Trump administration is doing these things is to have a chilling effect on immigrants. People are, as people have been saying up here, people are scared to go to the grocery store. Children are scared to go to school. And that's having a really serious impact on people's daily lives. With respect to the temporary protected status lawsuit, the federal statute that creates temporary protected status does not actually allow the president to revoke that status. It allows extensions, but it says nothing about revocation of an extension once it's been granted. And so the legal claims in that case are very strong, and we're working with immigrant community organizations and individuals in Boston who came to us and said, we're scared, this affects us, what do we do? And so if you are working for one of those organizations or you're working with individuals who you know are affected by these policies, please reach out to us. We are responsive, and we are thinking about bringing more lawsuits based on what the Trump administration is doing. So our phone lines, our emails are always open, and our website is lawyersforcivilrights.org. Anyone can go there. There's actually an intake form on our website. You can fill that out. All of our attorneys have our email addresses listed on the website. So please, if you have individuals or families or groups that are affected by these policies, please reach out to us. We also do tons of Know Your Rights trainings. We have attorneys and administrative staff who are doing lots of trainings, in particular on ICE raids, and how to help nonprofit organizations develop protocols for responding to ICE raids. And so not only are we helping organizations, but we're also helping individuals who are affected by these policies. So again, if you need help, please reach out to us.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions so far?
Yeah.
You have a question?
My tech, please work the microphone.
They're free. All of our legal services are pro bono and completely free. We do work with law firms on many of our cases, but we partner with them and they do not charge.
We're bringing you the mic. We're bringing the mic to you.
I think this lawsuit is great, but if you win it, when you win it, it will get TPS for a few more months. Then what?
So as of right now, from a strategy perspective, the first thing that we need to do is win, and it's going to take a little while in court. We have a hearing coming up on March 25th, seeking what's called a preliminary injunction, so that would prevent the policy from going into place temporarily, and then there will be immediate appeals. So even if we win, there will be an appeal to the First Circuit, and then probably an appeal to the Supreme Court. As lawyers, we're always trying to think down the line, what next, but we have to win first before we can get to that next step. So that would be my answer.
All right, any other questions around the lawsuit? Yes. Technician? Oh, okay.
So, in case one of these executive orders stands, right? Is there a way it can be reversed after the term, or does it stand for life? How does that go?
No, so assuming that the statute remains in place, the next president could reverse the decision and grant an extension of temporary protected status. So the short answer is this is not forever. Even if the Trump administration were to win, if there was a change in the presidency in 4 years, then there would be a different outcome and probably extensions.
Hello, my name is Verlene Toussaint, and I'm coming from Worcester. So my group is right here.
I also live in Worcester. Go Worcester.
My two pastors and my fellow sisters. My problem is I'm teaching ESOL, English Second Other Language. But my students are afraid to come to class because they're scared of deportation. They come to me, they're asking me what they can do. I'm only a teacher, so I don't know too much about laws. Can you please tell me what to tell them, at least to reassure them. Because my class is almost empty.
So yeah, so we're getting this question from a lot of people constantly, and we have many requests for Know Your Rights trainings for exactly this reason. But what I would say is there are a lot of organizations here that have made a lot of resources available on their websites to answer basic questions that people have. So the first thing I would say is direct them to organizations like MIRA. Their website is just covered with answers to a lot of these basic questions that people have. But also at Lawyers for Civil Rights, on the first page of our website, we have public trainings listed with the date and the time and the location. And anyone in the community is allowed to come to those trainings. We also have trainings scheduled on Zoom. So you can refer your students to attend those trainings and they can get their questions answered. We also have Q&A sessions, so question and answer sessions at the end of those trainings where we'll take specific questions. So that's what I would say is a good starting point, is to refer your students to the organizations who are doing trainings in the community.
Hi, my question is about the birthright citizenship, and it's about the next step, right? The next step right now is it's going to the Supreme Court.
So it's actually before the First Circuit, which is the appellate court just below the Supreme Court, but the Justice Department filed what's called a petition for certiorari to get it to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court has to accept that. It's a discretionary decision. It's unclear whether or not they're going to accept the case right now.
Because what I heard of is that Trump is making a case for the Supreme Court to accept it, arguing that something about the Constitution says that the birthright is for people that are under the jurisdiction of the U.S. and undocumented people are supposedly not under the jurisdiction, so they would not. Is that?
So that's the whole premise of the lawsuit. So the 14th Amendment specifically says all persons born in the United States and under the jurisdiction thereof are citizens at birth. And so the legal question in the case is, what does under the jurisdiction thereof mean? And we talked about this a lot in our briefing before the court. But it was understood at the time the 14th Amendment was passed. It's understood by scholars now, and the plain meaning of that term, jurisdiction, actually means anyone who was subject to the law of the United States at the time that they were born. And no one would argue that immigrants are not subject to the law of the United States. Of course, they have to follow American law. So if you take the plain meaning of that term, it clearly encompasses all people born in the United States, to immigrant families, to American citizens, anyone who's subject to American law at the time that they're born. And that's a very strong argument. Every single court where one of these birthright citizenship cases has been filed has agreed with us. There's a Supreme Court case from about 100 years ago called Wong Kim Ark, where the court explicitly said that. So the claims are very strong. But unfortunately, I think you are right to have a little bit of trepidation about what will happen at the Supreme Court, because as we've seen from them, they really have no respect for precedent. But this case in particular, the legislative history of the 14th Amendment, binding Supreme Court precedent, and just basic meaning of terms will make it really hard for the Supreme Court to hold otherwise. And so I think we have a good chance if the case does go all the way up to the Supreme Court.
But the Supreme Court would take it to put it to rest, or not take it at all and just hold it?
It's hard to anticipate. It will get to the Supreme Court eventually. The question is just when.
Wonderful, good job, good job. I know that you have a question, but I just quickly wanted to hear a quick update from Jill so that we can have everyone. Just hold on to your question and we'll get it just after Jill.
Thank you. So I'm Jill Sieber from Mabel Center for Immigrant Justice. We work with people who are already in deportation proceedings, representing them. Most of our cases are asylum. Our focus has largely been families, children, and mothers. And part of that is that our roots are in family detention. We created, this is out of
my co-founder and I, Danielle Santiago, wanted to create a response when detention and family separation were around earlier, and people were being released from those detention centers and unable to find representation to get their asylum applications in on time. Additionally, we're named after Mabel, one of our most beloved clients, and she was a part of the program that Heather alluded to earlier, where she was returned to Mexico and kidnapped with her child, and had an asylum hearing in a tent court. We were fortunate enough that her claim was successful, and she's living here safely and happily. So, thank you. But as relates to now, and kind of what we're thinking and how we're trying to respond to community need, as Heather talked about, the expansion of expedited removal to people who've been here within 2 years. The Trump administration has reopened those family detention centers and are now filling them with folks like that, rather than just families that have come into the border and trying to get to their next step. We're trying to aid there where we can. All of our clients are in Massachusetts though, so we see, that the border's everywhere. Our families can be picked up as well, not to fearmonger, but we just want to be prepared and understand what's happening there. There is some litigation pushing back. We try to provide data for that to the people doing the important impact litigation work. In addition, I guess it's worth noting, and I know people have been reading about people that have been picked up and detained without criminal records, without really a reason to be detained. One of the things that we're doing with our existing clients that we feel like might be more vulnerable to that is to collect documents that you're going to need for a bond hearing quickly. So that if a client is picked up, how do we get in touch with a family member? There's usually a lag in communication. So we've been trying to get into our system proof of residency, employment, all those things, so that we're good to go as soon as possible. And so I think just kind of, I know everyone in this room knows that, but we're trying to also meet the need for folks where TPS is disappearing and they need to have another application of relief to have something in process. So that's a little bit about the work we do. We also are happy to do Know Your Rights. We do Q&As, same kind of thing, because as you mentioned, for your students in Worcester, like the only way to really kind of help address the fear that everyone's feeling is to let people know, what is a concern and what is not. And so we want to try to help with that as well.
So we have one here, 103. So we're going to take 3 only. The reason why we need to hear from our different workshops so that we have more time. So just go ahead.
Thank you, and I'll try to make this as quickly as possible. First, I want to thank you for those lawsuits you filed against the administration. In this sea of hatred, those lawsuits have been a lifeline for the communities that we serve, particularly for the Haitian and Venezuelan communities here in this country. My question for you is, with TPS expiration fast approaching for many people come August, with this pending litigation, could the argument be made that this executive order is not enforceable? And I'm thinking about people who are currently working and whose work permits are about to expire. Is it possible for example, your organization, Lawyers for Civil Rights, to write a memo or some sort of document that states that the executive order is unenforceable and therefore the people can continue to work beyond that cutoff date, so that folks at least advise them a little time while this litigation is pending?
So one of the things that we're asking the court to do is to act on our lawsuit before that cutoff date, before we get there. And so we're asking the court to enter an order stopping the Trump administration from implementing the executive order on an emergency basis because that date is so fast approaching. And so what you just described, the document saying that it's unenforceable, is something that we've already filed in court with the judge. and we're asking the judge to sign off on that position, preventing the Trump administration from executing the executive order, basically, if that makes sense.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Andrew Sharp here from the Authentic Caribbean Foundation, and I like what you say, what if? Because the thing is, will it go through? And as you say, it depends on the Supreme Court. And we know the three judicial systems: legislation, Congress, and the executive. How do you see us ramping up our effort, like Louis, like our Haitian freedom fighter, Caribbean freedom fighter, or American freedom fighter, to continue to protest, continue to go into the town hall and demanding from our legislation that changes must happen. We're seeing it happening now within the Midwest, which is great. But what protection do we have? Because we know this administration, as something comes up, they try to put something into this year. So what protection we have, and how can we ramp up our legislation branch? Because they are dead now. It's controlled by him, and we the people who voted them in, we have to take action, and we cannot be silent. We have to be like our forefather, take risks in our back, and stand up to that devil or lion or whatever, like Daniel in the lion's den. So what is the protection that we have to continue our protest, continue going out in the community, marching? We should not let up. We should not let up.
So, all great points. I agree that in terms of policy change at the federal level, that's very unlikely to happen in the next 4 years. But that's where I try to emphasize to people that the federal government is not the only government in this country. We have a state government, we have local governments. And the Massachusetts legislature, although not great in a lot of ways, is much better than the federal counterpart. And so I would say, contact your state representatives, contact your local select boards. These are officials who have more direct impact on most people's daily lives than the federal government does. And they are able to pass laws that are protecting immigrant communities. And so I would say that that's a starting point. Start with the state government and seek protections there, because if the federal government's not working, that's the only place you can really go. And then second, in terms of protest and demonstration and things like that, I think that's really hard to do in an environment where everyone is really scared. What if I go to a protest and ICE decides to raid the protest and I'm undocumented? What do I do then? So people are just not even going out into the community. People aren't going to get groceries. People aren't going to school. And if they're not going to be doing those things, they're also not going to be demonstrating in the streets. And so I would say a good starting point for that, and I don't want to keep going back to know your rights, but really knowing your rights is so important. If an ICE officer comes up to you on the street without a warrant and wants to talk to you, people are going to need to know, do I have to stay there? Do I have to speak to the person? Am I detained? What do I do in that situation? Those are the types of questions that are answered for folks in Know Your Rights trainings, and so many people are just totally unaware of what their responsibilities are, whether they have to respond, whether they can leave, and so they're just not going out at all. And so I would say giving people that foundation of knowing what their rights are will make them feel more comfortable going out into public. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this. Okay.
So one more, and then was somebody that was, okay, here.
I have a lot of patients, a lot of migrants, and also I'm not sure if your organization has like a video, because sometimes some of my patients, they're afraid to log in certain information sessions, and so maybe a video in different languages. I'm not sure if you have something like that, and also a phone number that they can call, because there are so many different cases, and so there is a place that they can call and ask their questions about their immigration status, but definitely the immigration information about what their rights are, like a video, because they're afraid to log in on these information sessions. I mean.
Yeah, so we don't have a recorded video. What we do have on our website is most of the information that's in the training slides that we present during the trainings is in Know Your Rights materials that are posted for free to the public on our website. We have a lot of stuff, probably not quite as much detail as Mira's website, so I would send folks there and also to our website. We have also trainings in public. I don't know if that would make them, we've done them at community colleges, we've done them actually at local community health centers, where people feel more comfortable going in person because those are the places that they're interfacing with every single day. And so what I would say is if they don't want to log into a Zoom, maybe they might be willing to go to a training at a community college gym because that's where they go to school, for example, or something like that. So those options are available to people, but unfortunately, because the legal landscape is changing so rapidly, we can't record things for people because there's a good possibility that things will change and that advice will no longer be correct. And so that's why we can't record anything. But the basic fundamentals typically don't change, like people's Fourth Amendment rights and their interactions with the police or ICE, that doesn't change, or at least it doesn't change rapidly. And so that information is in the Know Your Rights materials, and then we are scheduling a lot of trainings in different formats for the reason that you bring up, which is some people might not feel comfortable going in person, some people might not feel comfortable with Zoom, some people might not have internet access, and they can't access a Zoom. So that's why we try to make them available in different formats.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We are so grateful to each one of you. Maybe you probably are part of the legal panel, so we're going to ask all of the report back people from the legal who is reporting back for you. The legal. Did you go to the workshop? Izama? Okay, Izama is coming for the legal. Workforce development, who is reporting back? Education, come. Education, come. Mental health. Who is reporting back for mental health? Come back, come. Education. Faith-based. Come on. Social services and faith-based. All of you come here.
Report back for your group. We're going to ask each person who's designated to please come up and grab a seat. We want to maximize as much time as possible, so we're asking all of our reporters to come back to report on the key takeaways that your groups established around your expected futures, your alternative futures, and your surprising futures. So please, I need legal, social services and faith-based, education, workforce development, health, mental health. Have I gotten everybody? So I should have at least 5 or 6 folks here reporting back on behalf of your group.
Perfect. Alright. So, gonna Ligo déjà plus près parce que tout le monde parce que déjà campé. So Ligo, why don't you come a little bit just in the center right here so that we can see you. Put the easel, yeah. We're going to put the easel up to make sure. Okay, so each group has, Jennifer, 3 minutes or 4 to report? 3? If each group has 3, which means that you have to do your very best to condense all of that. But guess what? You're going to share all of that with us, and we're going to produce the report. And then that report is going to be shared with everyone who is here today. So what they're going to report on is just a summary, but all of their notes will be sent to us, and then we'll compile of that the same way that we did last year. We had a very big report on what we discussed because we want to send that to you so you remember exactly what we are about to do. Because we don't do it just for the sake of doing it, we do it because we need to see next step. Alright? So I hope that each group leader will tell the general audience what exactly that they need to do. Okay, let's go.
Thank you. Key takeaways, we have about 10 different sheets of papers, because we have so many takeaways. So the challenge is, one of the challenge, is the coordination of all of us, working together to bring all the resources together to speak with one voice. We know there are a couple of lawsuits going, so there is a way for us to have anybody who is thinking of a lawsuit, everybody come together to speak with one voice. We have an email here, you'll be seeing the email later. But we also need to coordinate the cities, the state, and the federal resources, the federal people, so that we can come together and mount, all the resources, together. Because we have to really talk about immigration, how we're going to change, those laws. So we have to work together to do that. So we have to have a seat at the table. We have to put people in office. All of you people, we need you in office. I know we live in a blue state, lucky us. Our representatives, they have, great ideas to support us. But we need more people, to run for offices, so that we can take over the whole federal government. Yeah. We talk a lot about, coordination, but also accreditation, giving, a leg, to the small organizations that are doing some of the work, but don't have the accreditation, so that they can really do better. Because we have so many people in need of legal services, and many of these organizations could do even more if they had the resources, not just the financial resources, but also the human, resources. And we have, several organizations that provide, especially MIRA, that train people to become accredited, before the immigration. And we have MIRA, MIRA's website also is here, which is very important for all of you to become members of MIRA, to know what MIRA is doing, because it is, of course, naturally ORI, but MIRA, they give a lot of training. But also we have the Immigrant Day next Wednesday at the State House. Please attend. Huh? It's up already? I want to talk about that. We talk about services, more services. Okay, so, alternative. We need more, we already said we need more people running for office. They say we need more lawyers running for office, not any lawyer. Because many of them, many of those politicians, most of them are lawyers. And you see that's not really working necessarily. So we need progressive lawyers, to run for office, so that we can dismantle the system that is keeping us from really accomplishing things, like, getting comprehensive immigration laws passed. Because God knows for years and years, for decades, they've been trying to pass comprehensive immigration laws. So even when you have a full Democrat, on the three, not only on the, the three different branches of the government, we still cannot get it to pass because you don't have enough progressive people to get it done. So we need the progressive people, so then that's done by the power of vote. State policies also, we need them changes, we need changes at the state level to protect immigrants, because those raids that are happening, we need stronger state laws, to prevent those raids from happening, because this is the state of Massachusetts. Even though we know you have the federal government, you have the state government, but there are better measures that can be taken at the state level to prevent those families' lives from being ruined. What else? Sorry, I wasn't supposed to be doing all the talking. Okay, we also have to invest in the youth, yes. 2 minutes left? Thank you. 2 minutes left. So we need to, so concretely speaking, we need to organize, because a lot of people are in need of legal services, so we need to find a way to organize asylum clinics. We know it's not easy, but we can do it. If you remember, those of you who are in immigration, we had several immigration clinics where we had a lot of we apply for TPS, we apply for work permit. So it is doable. It's more complicated, but it is doable that we can organize post-asylum clinics. I think that Bravo is they want me out. That's what this Bravo is about. That's what they should do. Listen, go and clap me. They want you out. Okay, so we need to support more grassroots organizations, involve the churches more or the faith-based organization, and also money talks in the US. So we need to do fundraising to help everybody. Okay, in big legal defense funds.
Thank you so much, legal team. Wow, in that 1 hour, you guys really covered a lot of ground. So we're looking forward to sharing that in the report. I will sort of be the time dragon today. And so, again, there will be a report that compiles all that information today. So I will be the time dragon. But again, we are so appreciative of all the work you've done. So we want to invite our next group up. You guys were in the health and mental health. Okay, so they're going to do a combo platter.
Hey everybody, just health. We worry about mental health too, though. We're not as loquacious as the lawyers, but I'm Matt. I'm from MGH.
From IFSI-USA in Boston.
Great. So we represent the health group. First, we spoke in some general themes, and so I wanted to cite those. How we look at our future, and we talked about solidarity. There are groups that are coming together in alignment that maybe weren't in the past. And we've seen examples, we brought up the driver's license bill. Brought a lot of groups together that may not have naturally come together, but they're aligned on that issue. We also talked about mutuality, recognizing that different populations are tied to the health and rights of immigrants. And we should stress those. And then thoughts around recommitment to values, making this a values conversation, putting stress on our institutions, and then developing workforce. And so I'll hand it off to Fatima to talk about especially some of the community health worker workforce that we can develop.
Hi everybody, so we will start with the expected future, right? Which involved the barriers to access health in the community. One of them was language and cultural differences. Then there was a strain on community health workers and centers due to the budget cuts. The fear of job instability. As centers are closing, this translates to patients skipping appointments. So that way people are not accessing whatever the health services that they need to access. Then we also know that when health centers implement patient protections, people are more likely to show up. So I have an example of a center in Boston where they practically show patients that we don't let ICE come in here, so that makes patients more comfortable with that. And then when they don't come in, there are higher rates of domestic violence. There is sharing of needles, which also affects spreading more diseases to each other, and then not accessing medication and turning to social media for ad hoc treatment, which is, we all know from COVID-19 is not a good idea. Pregnant women not birthing in qualified birth centers or hospitals, and that is very risky when it comes to maternal health and infant health. So what do we do? How do we reinvent the situation? And one of them is by bringing healthcare services to schools, churches, shelters, and workplaces. Then strengthen bedfellow partnerships and coalitions. And those ones had other things that were encompassed in them, because to make these coalitions, we need 6 strategies. Like, sorry, I think I lost where I was. Okay, I'll get to it somehow. Don't worry. Yeah, community leaders, pastors and churches, and also the grandma of the community who can, encourage people to actually do what they have to do. Then there is the warrior power, pressure your hospital and community health center leaderships to implement protection, implement protection where was I? Implement protocols on safeguarding patients, talking with ICE, apply for funding from outside the federal government. So basically donations from other organizations and other contributors to the funds. Then the preferred futures, we had our, how do we get there, right? Work with the community leaders in shelters, community organizations, churches, and the grandmothers that I talked about. Those are the people who are influential in the community. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone of power, but someone who is trusted by the community itself. Use of social media for wider outreach. Expand telemedicine, mobile care vans in the trusted spaces. I'm sure you've seen vans out there which are doing the work that people walk to centers to do. They come to the people. And that also helps to address the fact that some people don't have transportation to go for the care that they need, right? Then there is engage pastors as educators. And lastly, engage pastors as educators, not just as spiritual leaders, the pastors you've heard, right? Thank you so much.
Great job, great job. Thank you so much. And please, please, please make sure we're keeping these stickies in a safe place for us. Okay, next we have a mental health group. So health and now mental health.
Hi, everybody. So great to be with you, as always. So my name is Gina Benjamin. I am the Executive Director of the Haitian Mental Health Network. Had a wonderful conversation with our group on mental health. There's a lot that we talked about. I'll run through the major highlights, and my colleague here.
Hello everyone, my name is Andreens and I'm the Director of Shelter Services for the International Institute of New England. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So we'll flip through, but stay tuned for the summaries. So mental health, as we all know, often is at the bottom, right? That people are prioritizing the basic health, the basic needs, and so the mental health needs continue to brew just below the surface, right? Just below the surface. But we have to look at this as such an important priority because without good mental health, then the housing is not going to be secure. The school, the work, everything else will fall apart, right? So we spent a lot of time talking about that. In terms of what to expect, increase in anxiety, stress, suicidality, resistance because of the stigma that's associated with mental health, and also how taboo it is to talk about mental health in immigrant communities. So really focusing on families not understanding what their needs are, because they're trying to survive, right? So we're in survival mode, and so helping to help folks manage just the level of stress and anxiety when they're just trying to figure out how to get one foot in front of the other. We talked about systemic barriers that exist. We spent a lot of time talking about the insurance, that there was an example from one of our colleagues, worked on the insurance paneling process for months and months and months. Finally got a response after it was submitted that, yes, thank you, we got your application. We won't be able to approve this until next year. And so people are in need right now. People are in need of services right now. And so thinking about, what are the mechanisms that could be put in place to ensure that We're dealing with the long wait lists for services. We're dealing with the cultural and linguistic barriers to accessing care. School systems, we're thinking about different systems that are overloaded with the mental health needs that don't have the capacity, that don't have the training, that don't have the available bodies to be able to meet those needs. So thinking about that. The federal cuts and the impacts that it's having on mental health. So thinking about how do we empower community-based organizations, services, resources, and then also looking at how do we provide that financial relief that people are in need of so that they can tend to their mental health. The mistrust is going to continue to exist because when people are getting mixed information from all different sources, they don't know what to believe, they don't know who to trust, they don't know who's got their best interests at heart. That's a major issue. And then how this trickles down to bullying and family systemic issues within the family system. And we also spent some time talking about the workers. So the helpers, the people who are providing the services, who may be in similar situations themselves. So still also trying to be a lifeline in difficult times. The alternatives. So as we talked about the alternatives, so we talked about the need for a collective effort, that we need to right? We need to come together to really ensure that mental health is at the forefront, that we are looking at, there's no physical health without good mental health, that we are prioritizing mental health, and that we are also consistent with the messaging. If 5 different people have 5 different messages, then we're going to get lost in the sauce, right? So how do we prioritize our message around mental health? Accessing funding that prioritizes mental health. So we can talk about funding for everything else, but when it comes to mental health, we don't have any money. Really? Okay, and also looking at systemic changes. So developing really from the bottom up. And so removing those barriers to access, looking at the reimbursement. How do we ensure that this can move forward as quickly as possible? It was suggested having a common application. Having a common application that providers fill out and people get approved to be able to provide the services and not having to wait a year or more, especially when there are agencies, there are organizations that can provide the cultural and linguistic relief that we need, but if they're not getting paneled, that is not a sustainable plan. So how do we get the funding available so that these providers can provide the services and know that they can keep the lights on? Okay. Increasing mental health literacy. And not only mental health literacy, but professional, personal development. So what's the next step? You have the knowledge. What do you do with it? So making sure that we're doing that. Increasing training to non-clinical workforce. CHWs, community health workers. Thank you, community health workers. We love you. Thank you for all that you do. And so how important it is to be able to also prepare pastors, lay ministers, those who are not in your traditional mental health field, because that's where the conversations continue, right? So we can start the conversation as the providers, but then what, right? So really preparing that non-clinical workforce to keep up the work. And then building wellness and healing communities. That's what sustains us. Wellness and healing communities. Surprises? Give me 10 seconds. So a mental health task force. We would love to see a mental health task force to represent mental health priorities. And we started a list to get that going right now to really ensure that we're moving this forward. Availability of funding and accessibility of funding. So you may hear about it, but when you prioritize mental health, we want to move in a different direction. It is critical. We do need to prioritize mental health. And then lastly, be bold, be brave, and be loud about mental health initiatives.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gina. Great job. Great job. So we're going to keep us moving. Next, we have our education group. And again, I'm going to have to really be the time dragon here. So we still have 2 or 3 more groups to cover. So we have our education team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Regine Filippo, head of Dessalines STEAM Academy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pastor Daphne Germain LaRoche. I am representing the Massachusetts Association of Haitian Parents, long name, but woohoo!
We'll try to be brief. So, as educators, I just setting the context, what we try to do is we try to understand and put in place the academic, the physical, the social, and the emotional supports children need from the time that they enter a system to the time that they leave, so they have the right knowledge and skills to thrive as adults and professionals. So what we did is we approached the conversation as a theory of change. So we identified the priorities that we have as educators and identified the policies that translate right from those priorities, the policies and decisions are necessary, and then to talk about the exact actions that needed to take place for those to be accomplished. So last year, we started our conversation by talking about what we talked about last year, and last year we had articulated a whole lot. So the way that we had list here prior, we had that list last year. And so this year what we did is we went back to that list and we talked about what were our priorities given our current context. So I won't list everything, but I'll list the 3 that we have identified. The first, and this was one of the most, actually the second popular, which was clear communication channels with parents. That means that our schools and our organizations have a responsibility to communicate with our families in a clear way, in a responsible way, in the language they understand, and to do it regularly so they are updated and informed. The second was mental health and trauma-informed support. That was huge. So kudos to our mental health group. Lots of conversations around the needs there. The third was family and community engagement. Now that one is packed. That included workforce readiness and opportunities given to both students and parents for future opportunities. And so we identified those priorities and then we went into conversations about the policies that are needed.
Thank you, Dr. Filippo. So one of the things I think contextually we really wanted people to understand is to plan for the unexpected. We have to assume that everything around you is deconstructed. You cannot have a mentality to perceive that, again, if we continue in the same manner that we're going, that the change will come to pass. We reflected on how much money has been invested in education engagement, parent engagement for the last, 50 years and all the initiatives, but especially for marginalized populations, the change and the shift was very nominal. We did not see the gains we wanted to see in our students. And so we said, let's think of as if the ship has sunk. What do we need to do now? And so what we presented, because we did our pre-work, because we were assigned pre-work, so we presented to the group an outline of an educational policy to say if we as a community begin to build as if there were no anchors, the things that we used to rely on, how would we then take these items that we identified from last year and begin to build out? And one of the things we identified, the importance of rowing in the same direction together. The mentality that, well, this idea can't work, well, this idea can't work, well, this idea can't work, is no longer allowed when the house is burning. It is figure it out and make it work. So one of the concepts we presented was, well, why can't we create our own educational fund? Because our kids will need to go to college, and scholarships that impact our children are being negated left and right. So for children who are graduating now, what will they have? And assume that the system continues. So it is, how do we build of ourselves for ourselves and finding allies that believe in rowing together in the same direction, because we need to build another system because the old system has died. Thank you.
So let me just say this in 30 seconds. So you'll have the list of those policies, okay? But at the end, what we said is we need an education-specific forum.
That was amazing. Great job. So next we have our...
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Blumenshine. I am the Director of Intercultural Ministries at the Emmanuel Gospel Center in Dorchester, and I'm representing the group that was social services, faith communities, nonprofits, people who are either part of those or cared about those spaces. So we skipped very quickly past the expected outcomes. I think we all had sort of a shared understanding that these were things that we were not okay with. And we went right to, we kind of ended up grouping in 4 main groups of ideas. One being the power of information. Okay, so know your rights workshops at churches, both immigrant churches as well as allied churches, synagogues, other faith communities, so that people who are maybe not themselves immigrants would still have the knowledge to be able to protect their neighbor. We talked about making things available online, almost like back in COVID days when services were available online for people who might feel afraid to come out, so they would still be able to access those things. We talked about immigrant families having, I think others have mentioned too, having key documents in a folder in case they need to be accessed quickly. And then also for people who might be interested in getting involved in some way who are not within a community affected, being able to articulate a range of things that people could do, and having that, having that available. And our group talked about a whole bunch of things. I think just in the interest of time, I'll give you my more detailed notes, but we talked about the power of narrative and how effective this administration has been in crafting a narrative that is based on false information. And so we talked about how we could improve our messaging about who immigrants are. We talked about leading to change in hearts and minds. We talked about intentional use of language. Sometimes when we use the same words over and over again, even if there's nothing wrong with the word in the abstract, there are things that have become attached to those words, right? So one member of our group suggested that he doesn't use the word migrants, he uses the word neighbors. As a way to kind of switch, right, the way people react to something. We talked about power of a movement. I think, many of the things that are necessary and that we tend to jump to are defensive in nature. But in addition to that, what are the things that actually put us, on the offensive sounds too combative, but I mean, maybe that's how you feel, but we talked about what are the values that we share, that we're rooted in, that are actually very compelling and appealing, and how do we take that and share that with the world, right? So people were talking about the civil rights movement, about United We Dream, or the Dreamers. How could we get in touch with those values, convene people, mobilize them, faith communities, marching, singing, that's a wide open space, but really turning our attention to things of that nature as well. And lastly, the power of collaboration and coalition among communities of faith with shared values. We had multiple faith communities represented in our group. We also noted that there are some, a big part of Trump's base is a group of Christian organizations, churches, people, right? So it may be another space, like the health group was talking about, I think, where, alliances are shifting. It's not what we traditionally might imagine. We talked about allyship, connecting immigrant, allied and non-immigrant churches for advocacy, community resource sharing, a lot of resource in that group, people talking about how they have been hosting migrant families in their church building, people who have food pantries out of their church, or other kinds of services. So kind of knowing where those are and being able to connect each other. There was an idea about creating new legal capacity, which I think the ACLU has been involved with in the past, but tapping lawyers who may not be immigration lawyers to be able to increase the capacity of that system. And then creative use of facility space. So, it could be a church or a synagogue or, some kind of faith space where people could either find shelter or there could be programs offered in those spaces. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Great job, great job. And last but certainly not least, we have our workforce development section.
Hi again, Lenita Rizzo, the Brazilian Worker Center. So we learn a lot in our group. So we talk about the challenge that everybody knows that we could be talking for weeks about the challenge because it's a lot. But we learn about E-Verify, we learn about IT number, we learn about a number of things when we was talking about the challenge. And we decided just to put here only four. That is need-a-bear workforce protections, GPS deadlines that's going to impact many GPS holders, workforce trains and programs able to accept candidates that gonna have their work authorization expire soon. And even employers that are sympathetic, sometimes they have their hand tied. So there's a challenge that we have, some of the challenge, and we came up with, that was good that we have more alternatives than challenge that we was able to put in here, even we know the challenge is many more than that.
Thank you. My name is Ilani and I work for JBS. And on workforce development, our group, we have had a very big group, so thank you all for all your valuable input. We're thinking about immigrants who are in the U.S. workforce, or those who are seeking to enter the U.S. workforce. And so we talked about some of those challenges in red, but I'm happy to report that we came up with a lot more alternatives and thinking outside of the box, specifically for those immigrants who will soon or may soon be losing their ability to work through their TPS and their work permit. How can we help support them through this period? And so some of those alternatives is, we talked a lot about employers. Employers, one main theme that came up is employers don't have to be our adversary. They can be our allies. We can work with them. If we can, for example, highlight to the employers the value of their immigrant workers, the loss of assets that they will experience if they let go of this workforce. And so, thinking about alternatives, employers could potentially offer short-term employment opportunities. We're thinking about, legal memorandum, for TPS workers, in the event that in August, for example, as soon as August, people's work permit may expire, could we have some form of legal memorandum from the organization that filed the lawsuit against that executive order to say that executive order that stops the TPS is not enforceable at least until a judge makes a decision. And our friend from the attorneys or Lawyers for Civil Rights told us that March 25th is a big day because they're asking for an injunction and they're asking a judge to make a decision that cannot be enforced until this litigation is over. So that would really help people keep their jobs. What else? We are asking employers to advocate for their employees, and to really stand up and say, as employers, as businesses, we stand to lose a lot more if we lose this significant
workforce. So we want to keep our employees, and don't want this new executive order to make us lose all of these valuable employees. Then we talked about future-proofing our work. How can we maintain this work? Building community. This is precisely what we're doing here, and I thank you, IFSI, for making this happen. Making referrals to partnering agencies, really working together, handing off, doing warm handoffs so that people aren't left to fend for themselves. Be intentional about networking and collaborating. Leverage the power of employers, and again, highlighting the value of keeping their current workforce instead of having to replace them. Opportunities for people to generate income through co-ops and small businesses. In the event that people cannot maintain their employment, can they become, small business owners, start up their own businesses? We talked about the possibility of helping individuals get ITIN, individual tax identification numbers. In the event that someone finds themselves without a social security, they could potentially start their own business, using the ITIN number. We talked about co-ops and small businesses. Land trusts, that was a really cool idea. Land trusts are, and I didn't know what this was before today, but land trusts are a group of people who invest in buying land, and then that land trust develops housing, and then people who are undocumented can live on that space in that housing. So that's a really cool idea that I'd like to learn more about and develop more. And then finally, community colleges. That was also really interesting. Can community colleges help by issuing student visas to help support the population of individuals who may be losing their status? So yeah, that is everything in a nutshell. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful job, ladies. And thank you so much for everyone bearing with me as I was the time dragon wizard and all things annoyance about time. But there, as you can see, so much wonderful ground was covered. So I actually, as we said, the goal of this is to leave here with practical to-dos. We want to take all of these ideas, all of these thoughts, we want to take them off paper, and we want to put them into practice. So I'm going to make a request of all of the groups. So for each one of the sectors, you all have these really detailed notes that you've shared. So we at IFSI will be taking on the task of making sure that we articulate that in the report, but we recognize that's not something that we can do alone, right? So there are thoughts and ideas that came from individuals in different departments, different organizations that we want to make sure are articulated properly. So we do ask if you are willing to please contribute to sort of the development of that report. So that might look like us drafting that first section, circulating it, and ensuring that people give feedback to make sure that every idea and thought was articulated properly. So please, if you do have the bandwidth to do that, please let us know. But all of the IFSI staff members who were in the different sections, please make sure you capture all the notes, every sticky, every large paper, every text message, whatever it was. We want to capture everything, and we will be leaning on each other so that we can make sure we get all the details. There were so many common threads, but one of the things I repeatedly hear was clear communication and consistent messaging. I think almost every group said that in some form. And so this is going to be our communication amongst each other. And so we're going to rely on everyone to help us put out a robust report. Before we move on to our final few sections, we do want to talk about different ways to support. Of course, we know that this report is going to be a great way to support organizations. We will be putting up a donation link, so anyone who's interested in supporting our work and what we do, please feel free to donate. Everything will go to support the families that we are serving. We also are looking for volunteers. We're looking for instructors. We're looking for lawyers. We're looking for everything. So anyone who is interested, please, 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 we will be sharing a link with you that says ways to support, and we will have a robust list of things that you can do. So I will invite Dr. Gabo to come up to help us close out our session.
Great job. Let's give a big applause to everyone for your work. Again, like I said, we are not going to stop. After today, we're going to start working on the report. We will share it with you. We will continue to organize. We will continue to bring you together as a way for us to find our way forward. And as I'm talking about that, my wonderful other combatant, come here, our Madam President, Boston City Councilor, Woodsy Vision. We show her on the video that the documentary that we shared. Always, she's always looking out for us, always fighting on our behalf at City Hall, wherever she goes. So let me give her the opportunity to share a few words with us. Thank you, Woodsy, for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi, tout le monde. I'm happy that I can be with all of you. Ruth Louis-Jean, at-large city councilor and president of the Boston City Council. I just want to give a clap for Dr. Gabo. Because this work for me would be so much harder if I didn't have a combatant, which is a fighter like Dr. Gabo out in community, telling me what I needed to do. And of course, my second father, Pastor Kiki, and my real father right there with the video camera. But I am so grateful because oftentimes politics and affecting change is an inside-outside game. Right? You're on the inside, but you need folks on the outside putting the pressure on what we need. And these are really perilous times for our communities. So I just want to say thank you to all of the organizations who are here, who are partnering in this work. There is fear, but we can have faith over fear, and we can have community over fear, and we can choose solidarity over fear. I am a lawyer, but I am not an immigration lawyer, and neither is anybody in my office. The day after the inauguration, we had a 2-hour session with all of my staff and an immigration lawyer to do Immigration 101 because I knew that the calls we would get would increase, as they did this week. We got 2 calls, not even from members of the Haitian community, but of people where I showed up and they needed lawyers and they needed information. And we put together a whole immigration resource guide. The city of Boston is entering into our budget process, and we're going to continue fighting for what we've been fighting for, more resources for our immigrant community so that people like Monique Nguyen, who is executive director of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement, so that their office can have more money to do the things that we need. The English classes, the legal consultations, the more support, the mental health. Shout out to Tracy Talden and everybody who's been working on issues of mental health. So we need to make sure that we sound the alarm on the needs and support our immigrant communities, and to also give grants, because I know there are a number of organizations here. You all are operating on a shoe. I see you shaking your head, Andrew. Operating on a shoestring budget while working with and for directly the people. So I just want to say thank you, merci à tout le monde qui là, qui travaille avec moun pour faire pas inquiéter. Nous connaissons dans moment ça, il y a un peu de monde qui inquiète et puis yo paix et puis il y a raison pour yo paix. Mais nous avons choisi pour nous travailler ensemble. Nous avons choisi solidarité. The most important thing right now is knowledge, knowing your rights. Knowledge is power. It helps to decrease the fear. What kind of warrant do they need to show? It needs to be signed by a judge. Under what conditions you open your door for someone. We need to empower people and let them know that we in the city of Boston, like our mayor strongly said last week, we are a city of immigrants and we will not back down. And our economy is only what is. We are here at 11.99, okay? We are a city of immigrants. We are an economy of immigrants, and it doesn't work without us, right? So if they're messing around, they're gonna find out what it means. But we are gonna stand in solidarity. We're not gonna change who we are. We know that immigrants engage in less crime and are more likely to report crime. We are here not because we necessarily want to, but because of economic opportunity, and we are put our heads down and we work. And that's the message that we need to share. So just know that you have an ally in me, whether it's budget, whether it's connecting you to resources, whether it's sharing information. My office is here, and I know I'm the only city councilor that's here, but I just want you to know the entire city council stands in solidarity. Last week, we unanimously denounced the Trump administration's revocation of temporary protected status for Venezuelans, for Haitians. So me and all of my colleagues, we are locking arms to be with all of you to say that we can strategize, right? Don't just let the fear overcome us of being in this moment of a hellscape, right? When we lock arms, when we work in solidarity, when we find solutions, and when everyone is using their time, their talent, their treasure in a way to respond, that's how we fight this, and that's how we're gonna beat this. Yes, I'm sleeping less, I'm sure y'all are too. The anxiety is high, mine is high. The work has doubled, and I didn't need my work to double, but you know, our ancestors sacrificed so much for us to be here, and we will continue the journey, and we will continue the marathon. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful, thank you, Uzi, thank you. And just so you know, Monique is here, and the mayor was really trying hard to make sure that she could stop by, but she could not make it. But we know that Monique and the entire, Office of Immigrant Advancement, they've been with us the whole day. So we wanted to first say, Monique, thank you, and please share our gratitude for our mayor, because I know that she could have said, you know what, it's too much for me. I have a baby. I cannot go to DC. I cannot face those giants. But guess what? Firm, strong, bold, and she said, we belong. And we want to say together, we belong here. All right, Monique.
And she was only able to have that courage and power because she met with so many stakeholders during the leading up to that hearing. She met Dr. Gabo and the Haitian community in their neighborhood, and also in East Boston. And she saw the power, and she's like, how can I stand down in this time? What's so, my baby can just come along. Mira is very good at she didn't cry any time for the last 6 weeks. She knew her mom had a mission. And I must say, like, our office is here in the city of Boston, but I know that you all are from different cities. So if the mayor put out pretty much a back signal saying that all mayors, all cities, all people who care about immigrants or aren't immigrants should stand up during this time. So Moya, our office organizes meetings with other cities. Even if you don't have a Moya office, there are people who are working in your city government who are pro-immigrant that meet with us. So please check in with your city's offices and find out what are the immigrant services for in my city. So we can also include in our coalition as well. So please remember that we're here for your office. We're here from our office. And then if you ever have constituents asking, what are the Know Your Rights resources? What can I do? Go to boston.gov/belonging, and then you can find our placemaking campaign, where we are trying to share culturally that you belong here. We have posters we're putting out through our school system, in their neighborhoods, in the homes, in 13 languages. And our website has Know Your Rights resources in up to 13 languages as well. So everything can be found there. We're updating that regularly. So please be a partner with us and carry on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so before we leave, first, my team said we need to have a nice group picture as a way to remember today. Pastor Kiki, you and come here. We have so many people to thank, but I know you are so good with all the names, because I am good with giving the hug, but with not the names. So we need to say a big thank you to all of you guys, all your as organizations, as individuals, as churches, as partners, as friends, as supporters who came today to make sure that we could have this powerful moment. And Pastor Kiki, you're going to go through some of the names for me, and then as we are doing that, what we want everyone to do per table, quickly per table, you're going to just give me one word that you are living with today. So I want it per table, and then I'm just going to point, and then you give me one word that you want to leave today. So you have to do it together. So in the meantime, Pastor Kiki, we have ORI in the back, and we have Christina, we have Suzanne, we have Bonnie. We can see in the back, English for New Bostonian. Yes, yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so Claudia, English for New Bostonian. LCR, great job LCR for all you've done. Mass Immigrant Collaborative, where are you? Mass Immigrant MIC. We have Institute for Justice that way. We have MLRI, great job MLRI for everything. We have Equity Now and Beyond, CARES, Healthcare for All, MIGA, Education Haiti Network, Children Alliance Center, and the churches, Brookline, all of you, our group.
The activist group from Brookline, the Jewish Coalition, are you here? Good. So we have the Haitian Mental Network with Gina. Thank you so very much. With Tracy Talden is here, still? Okay. So JVS Catholic Charities, we have them with us. We have also the First Haitian Baptist Church in Worcester, Authentic Caribbean Foundation with us. Moya still here with us again. DTA is with us. Thank you. Massachusetts Behavioral Services, first door over there. We have Red Cross, by the way. Red Cross would like to partner as well with the Haitian pastors. MGH Mobile, Mass General Hospital. And we also have DPH, Department of Public Health. Come on, Lieutenant, sir, responsible for that. Thank you so very much. And then we have Immigrant Family Services Institute. All of the staff, where are you? Okay, thank you for the great work you do. IFSI, great work. Are we missing anyone? Cambridge Health Alliance, CHA. Thank you. We have Telegalaxy in the house. All right, we have Radio Concord. We have the Massachusetts Association of Haitian Parents in the house. We have Dessalines Academy, that school from Brockton. Well, thank you. We visit Maple Center already? First Parish in Brookline. We have Novu. Where's my friend Novu? All the way from Pittsburgh. They're here with us. Thank you. Brigham and Women Hospital. Thank you so much. We have Happy with us, Dr. Reynald. Thank you so much. City of Boston Adult Learning Education. We have Bethel AME also with us. Thank you so much. Francisco, thank you. Novu, thank you. Thank you. I'm coming over there. And the Authentic Caribbean Foundation already with us down here. JBS is always with us. Thank you so very much for all the work you do. And the Massachusetts Association of Haitian Pastors Coalition. Thank you, Radio Concord. Thank you for being here as well with us. Radio Telegalaxy, Radio Tele Boston, Radio Planet Compact. Thank you for all your work.
Yes, community health workers. Yes, wonderful. Yes, good job. Yeah, did we miss anyone? Yes. Roxbury Community College. Yes. Community Health Alliance. Wow, 38 years, wow. And Jamila, thank you for bringing everyone together. Brazilian Worker Center, Asset Dot, DTA, yes, we call DTA already, yes. Alpha, I should say Alpha. I mean, most of them are on the massively collaborative, but we wanted to make sure that we thank you each. What did you miss? Yes. Department of Services, yes, thank you. Orchid 7, you're here, thank you. Last year, Orchid 7, remember, you saved the day last year with the food. Did you bring any food this year? Yes. Which one? Okay, wonderful, thank you. Yes. Oh, wonderful. Let me hear it louder.
Congregation congregation Dorshet Tzedek, which translates to seekers of justice.
Wonderful, seekers of justice. All right.
Justice Center of Southeast Mass.
Yes, Southeast Mass. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Wonderful. Wonderful. Did we miss anyone? We want to make sure that we get everyone. So now, quickly, that's it. Right? So a big round of applause for each one of them. Now, quickly, one word per table. Are you ready? Are you ready? One word per table. Are you ready? Okay, what is your word? What is your word?
Coalition.
Coalition. Coalition. Mike, guys, go around. What is your word?
Solidarity.
Solidarity. What is your word?
Oh, motivated.
Motivating. Go on the one. What is your word?
Hope.
Hope. What is your word?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. What is your word?
Courage.
Courage. Courage at the same time. Wow, that's good. What is your word?
Empowered.
Hope. Hope. What is your word?
Power to the people.
Power to the people. What is your word here?
Courage.
Courage. What is your word?
Truth.
Truth. What is your word here?
Faith.
Faith. Here. What is your word? What is your word?
Community.
Community. What is your word here? Food.
Food.
What is your word?
Empathy.
Empathy. Yes. What is your word here?
Fighting.
Fighting. What is your word?
Determination.
Determination. What is your word?
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. What is your word?
Power.
Power.
Community.
Community.
Strengthen.
Strengthen.
Okay, we're gonna catch this side over here.
Yes.
Fight.
Fight.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Resilient.
Resilient.
Empowerment.
Empowerment.
Okay. Do we already capture this table? Last one.
Perseverance. Perseverance.
Last one.
Win. Win. Wonderful. In here.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. All right. Let us clap for all of those wonderful words. So now, Teddy, Mr. Teddy, communication. Where we do? Where is the picture? Eh?
Okay, before people head out, please, we want to make sure that we capture a picture with all of us. So if you could just give us like 2 to 3 more minutes for the photo, we will be very, very fast, we promise. 2 to 3 minutes to get a picture, and then we will conclude the day.
Okay.
We want also to thank Association of Haitian Women, Dr. Pierre Jerome, thank you HLC, thank you for being here with us. And Nicole Victor, thank you for all the work you do, thank you so very much. We have the intern from Center to Support Immigrant Organizing, CSIO, thank you so much for being Lou Fenfer from